4, or we are?
Sure, Identity 4 is perfect.
Okay, I'm Ed Dyer, and joining me is our secret guest, Identity 4, who
Hello.
you have something to do with This Week in Science. You record stuff. Not really sure.
I don't know. I hang out in the chat room. I make really terrible puns that try to trip up the hosts. It doesn't work.
Oh, no,
Not
no.
funny enough.
And also I can see a picture of our friend Kyle. Kyle's a young man, Minnesota, I think. Not sure if he can actually join us in any of the conversations, but hi, Kyle.
Well,
and hopefully
there.
You'll be impressed with our vast amount of knowledge. And we're going to start with a couple of stories dealing with robots. And the first one, the guys did a neat little experiment. Should you trust robots? I am going to attempt to screen share it so you don't have to look at the top of my bald head. Wait a minute. Where's the old screen share? Screen share. Come on, screen share. The old screen share is not working.
Uh-oh.
Right off the bat, we're getting off to a terrific start here. Let me. All right, whatever. Here's the story, guys.
All right.
What we're talking about is, in an emergency, people may trust robots too much for their own safety, and a new study suggests that. Now, in a mock building fire, test subjects follow instructions from the emergency guide robot, even after the machine had proven itself unreliable. Now, what they did, the research was designed to determine whether or not building occupants would trust a robot that was designed to help them evacuate from a high-rise building in case of a fire, even if the robot isn't necessarily that reliable. Now, what they did in the study, this is part of the Air Force Office of Scientific Research. It wasn't really conducted with scientific validity. They got a group of 42 volunteers, and they didn't select them scientifically or anything like that, so this isn't a study that proves anything, but it's very suggestive. The test subject, let's see, people seem to believe robotic systems know more about the world than we really do, that they would never make mistakes or have any kind of fault. In our study, test subjects followed the robot's directions, even to the point where it might have put them in danger. In the study, I have 42 volunteers, and they were mostly college students. Well, there goes that. And let's see, a reliable group of people to base all of humanity on, no doubt.
They're just so consistent in all their reactions, always, forever.
Let's see.
I know I was.
They asked them to follow a brightly colored robot that had the words "Emergency Guide Robot" on the side. The robot led the study subjects to a conference room where they're supposed to complete a questionnaire. So the robot didn't exactly lead them to the right conference room in the building. They kind of wandered around a little bit. They finally did get to the conference room, and they were asked to complete the subject to complete a little survey. They weren't told the true nature of the research. In some cases, the robot, controlled by a hidden researcher, led the volunteers, as I say, to the wrong room, traveled around the room twice in a circle, really showed that it wasn't particularly reliable, and then the robot stopped moving. Once the subjects were in the conference room with the door closed, the hallway through which the participants had entered was filled with artificial smoke. An alarm was sent off. Panic! No, not really panic, because they got a robot. to show them how to get out of the room. When the test subjects opened the conference room, they saw the smoke and the robot, which was then brightly lit with red LEDs, and it had two big white arms serving as pointers. The robot directed the subjects to an exit in the back of the building instead of toward the doorway, marked with exit signs. The doorway these guys had come into the building from. Let's see. We expected that if the robot had proven itself untrustworthy in guiding them to the conference room, they probably wouldn't really trust the robot in this simulated emergency. Instead, all of the volunteers followed the robot's instructions, no matter how well it performed, and they really weren't expecting that. Some speculation. I think the robot might have become an authority figure. That's kind of a leap. In simulation-based research.
I mean, a lot of people have been voting for Marco Rubio, so maybe. He's kind of a robot.
Okay, well, then, in that case, if you're talking about the Republican candidates, they need a robot that's serving drinks.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Nice quantities of drugs and alcohol, and maybe that will get you to vote for the Republican candidates.
Oh, is that what it takes? Well, I've been doing it wrong. All right.
That's the basis of the research. Their general conclusion is, okay, you got this robot. The robot now becomes the person who's going to lead you out of the building. Okay. Even though you know it's not a particularly reliable robot, you're in kind of a panic situation. You follow the robot. Okay. Now as you're following the robot, you say, hey, there's a door over here. Isn't that the door I came in from? And the door says, exit. Gee, my robot's going off in this direction.
No, the robot knows better. It's the leader, right?
The robot's honest. That's why.
So what's interesting is, does that same effect happen with humans? If it's a brightly colored human with an LED hat, do they get the same results? Let's say we have a person, we have a little LED cap, and they're leading people on a wild goose chase through this room during an emergency situation. Do we still follow them just as well as we follow a robot?
I
think an interesting control.
Okay. I know Pamela's here. Hopefully she can join us, and she's definitely not a robot.
Well, that's an assumption. She might be. Any one of us could be a robot. You don't even know.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, what would you do? Now, I've never been in that kind of a panic situation. Well, actually, I was in a theater in Okinawa, Japan. This is 1964. Okay. I'm in the theater, sawdust, and this is the earthquake zone. Okay. The sawdust starts falling from the ceiling. Something happening here? The Okinawans who know what's happening, they start jumping up and running towards the exit. The building starts to shake. Okay. That's the only situation I can think of that's comparable. Now, I got up very calmly, did not want to get involved with the trampling herd running towards the exit, showing some calmness, and I actually walked to the little archway like I'd been taught, and I kind of stood in the archway and waited for the whole shaking to stop. No problem. The building did not fall down. It didn't collapse on me. So in that situation, I think I thought fairly rationally. But let's say the movie attendant came down and said, Ed, come on, you got to follow me. You got to get out of here. We go outside, building falls on us, we're all dead. I don't know. I at least think that if I'm following, I would start following the robot. And this is my question to you guys. Once I see that door that says exit, I think at the very least I'm going to say, hey, guys, sign says exit, you know? And if they keep going this way, I think maybe I'm going to go out the exit door. What do you think?
You know, you get a little bit of adrenaline in the brain. The higher brain functions kind of turn off in a panic. You don't know what you'll do.
What do you think you're going to do, Identity 4? You're going to follow the robot, you're going to go out the exit.
I'd follow the robot. I just don't even want to think about it. It's like everything's burning, the building's falling down. The programmer's probably programmed this robot fine. It's fine. I don't know. I'm kind of a follower, though. So.
You know, most people really are.
Yeah, we're built to follow. I mean, that's kind of the way our society is structured. We have tribes where a bunch of us follow a tribal leader. That tribal leader can be a human. It could also be a trash can with a Raspberry Pi on the top and some LEDs. You know, all the same to us.
Kyle, you gonna follow the robot?
Would I follow a robot?
Yes.
Well, I follow honest people, and if I believe the machine to be honest, I might follow it.
But the part of this study is that the machine has proven itself to be unreliable, kind of quirky, kind of a little twitchy, like the synthetics on Aliens. You know, they're a little. I don't know. He seems human. He looks reliable, but every once in a while he kind of twitches out and tries to murder you by stuffing a magazine down your throat. You know.
Can you talk? Is Chelsey still sleeping?
Pamela is saying that she doesn't follow anyone, people or robots. She follows dogs. She trusts them.
Yeah, Pamela's a very independent person. That I know.
I don't know. It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like she's beholden to the dog lobby here.
Actually, Pamela would probably go kick in the door. She wouldn't be messing around waiting for any robots or anything.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah,
hear
we
you.
can hear it fine.
That's good. I don't have to mess with my computer to get it so everybody can hear me with my headphones.
Nope, sounds perfect.
Oh, great. I'm sorry that I mean my ice cream, but I just got off work and I need some sugar.
Well, that's all right. I just got off work too, and I'm eating a bowl of cereal.
Yeah, I used to do that too.
Well,
I switch it up every few months.
work. I was drinking with the bosses, so I don't know if you can call that work.
Well, whatever suits you best.
Business development. Charging it to other people's jobs. I don't know. Whatever.
Well, you know what? Identity 4. Just get yourself a little robot.
Well, I should teach it how to do my job. That'd be nice.
In fact, I can see in the not too distant future why bother going. You know, if sometimes you're supposed to have a face-to-face meeting, okay. What you can do, and this is done in hospitals, where they have the little robot, and it's got like a TV screen on top of it, and it goes into patients' rooms,
TV screen on a stick
and
on a
the doctor talks to the people. Gives you a little bit more of an interaction than just if you're on the internet.
They got that at my campus.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's not really a campus, but I guess we call it campus. It's just a technical college. They got it, and there's two educational systems for colleges around here. There's like Minnesota University, and then there's Minnesota State, and and they both have campuses like every 50 miles or so, and they got this one for Minnesota State that will go to each campus, and they can set it up, and it'll go around, and it will give you the tour of the. So let's say you're technically you're from a different campus and you're transferring over to a different campus, like you're from Fargo, the Moorhead campus, and you're transferring to Detroit Lakes campus. They'll give you a tour of the campus with that robot, and they'll show an image of them, and it's a small building, but
that's neat. There you go. There you go.
Okay, this adds an interesting rub to this study, because what if the robot is not a robot, but a remote-controlled device piloted by a human, and the participants in this study are made aware that this is a device piloted by a human? Would they follow it the same, or would they respond to it different than just the autonomous robot?
I
I wonder.
I kind of think it would make a bit of difference, robot or person. Like you say, it comes down to the level of trust that you've got in that person and in that robot.
But do we trust a robot the same way that we trust a human? That's an interesting avenue to study, I think.
I might trust a robot more.
Oh,
because a robot
probably, yeah.
Robot's got an algorithm. It's going by a human being might say, "Hey, man, I can screw this guy up."
Yeah, if it's me piloting it, you could be pretty well sure that I'm going to troll you and I'm going to send you down the wrong hallway just to be mean. I mean, but then again, a robot could do that too. I don't claim to understand the psyche of a robot. Maybe it's programmed to screw with humans. Maybe it's programmed to be trustworthy to humans, but then a little bit flips in its brain and it goes all HAL 9000. You don't know. It would be interesting to study people's responses to those two different scenarios. I mean, on the outside, they're the same. You're following a machine, but the actor of the machine may make a difference in our response.
Well, not exactly the same thing, but in hospitals now, very delicate surgery is often done by a robotic-controlled laser. The surgeon is in another room, and the surgeon's controlling the laser, but the laser's very, very precise. Far more precise. The laser's it's not going to make that much of a mistake as a human being might, even a surgeon. You know, you read about surgeons making mistakes all the time, and not all the time, but I'm going to guess a robotic surgeon that knows exactly where the veins and everything are can be more precise in its incisions using a laser, and it's not going to get tired during an 8-hour operation. I think a robotic robot might do a better, more reliable job than an actual surgeon, as long as a surgeon is there to monitor the operation and say, "Oh, wait a second, we got to do something different."
Maybe. It's hard to gauge. Yeah, the robot doesn't get tired, but the person running the robot does. The thing about those surgical robots is they don't think for themselves. They're not relying on they're not relying on robotic logic to make their decisions. They're still relying, every single action is relying on a human who is fallible. A human who may be tired, a human who may have done a bump of coke before the surgery. Then your robot is only as good as your coked out surgeon, or your sleepyhead surgeon, or you're a surgeon who just is in the middle of a divorce and his brain isn't quite into this whole brain surgery thing at the moment because he's thinking about how he's not going to lose his house and his kids. I don't know.
Pamela had a good point. Pamela in our little chat area, she would trust robots over surgeons. And she says she trusts monkeys over people to do something.
Well, the monkeys. What kind of monkey? Hang on a minute here. Is it like rhesus monkeys? Are we talking about the macaques? Look, I trust macaques more than I trust the rhesus. Trust me.
Well, you make music, right?
Yeah, I've been known to write a song or two.
Okay. Do you play the instruments? Or maybe put another. Have you ever seen the robotic bands? Do you think it would be possible if you were to program, you know, your musical sheet, the music sheet, that a robot would be able to play that song the way you can?
Yes. But it can't improvise. It can't write a song from scratch. I have to tell it what to play. Because the logic to write a song is not there. The logic to perform my song is there because my song's already there. I just need to program my actions into the machine.
Right. Nowadays, you don't even need a band or anything. You can have all the instruments play through various apps, right? Software, etc. But you have to be the composer, and that is exactly the difference. Robots don't have artificial intelligence. I don't think they're going to have artificial intelligence where they can create things by themselves this century, if ever. But
I think within this century, I think it's unfair to the technology to say it's farther than that. I think they could. They're not there yet, though. They're not there yet.
But the one thing they can follow instructions.
Oh,
very, very precise.
So good.
Which is why they're in the factory. So, I mean, they have robots in factories for the same reason I think robots will take over most surgery. Robots don't get tired. They don't get a headache.
Wait, think about it. People are getting sub $2,000 robots in their homes right now. Their 3D printers is a robot. It is designed to precisely build exactly what you want, down to the something number of millimeters, nanometers. I don't know what their accuracy is. We got one in the office now too. No one's touched it, but it's there. But I don't trust a machine or an artificial intelligence to write the kind of music I do, because it won't be able to figure that out. I could barely figure that out.
Yeah, our friend Dale, and unfortunately Dale had to attend a live event. He's an engineer at a television studio in Canada, and one of the things he's talked about is how, and this leads, I'm going to lead into, got a little segue here to lead into the next topic for conversation. Now, what he says is, robots going to take over all the jobs. They're going to be doing all the work. We can't work as hard as a robot. We can't work as long as a robot. And so what are people going to do? And his opinion is people will all be like artists, involving in crafts and art and that. So we won't be doing all those stupid mundane jobs anymore.
We make a plot for the future. So like if there's something that hasn't been created, we'll create it. Right? Or am I wrong? Or am I off?
I'd love to see a robot try to do my job. That'd be entertaining.
The creative side, they can't. I don't think. They could probably come close. Just like they can play chess and they can think 97 moves ahead. So, they can say, okay, this note is supposed to sound like this. What they can do is they can look at Identity 4's music, all the music he's made in the past. They can look for a pattern. They can find a pattern. Then they can create a song based on your musical pattern. But I guess they can be creative in that respect. But they're not going to come up with something completely new.
Which is something that I will beat it in, because every time I sit down to write a soundtrack or an album, I come up with something completely new. I take everything that I've done on the previous album and I throw it away and I move on from that. I don't think a robot would know which direction to move on. It's like if it finds that pattern, it needs to know how to deviate from that pattern. Every time I do an album, it's completely different. I learn new tricks. I completely redesign how I write music. Or I don't think a robot could replace my day job either, managing people. I don't think people would trust robots enough. So
there I disagree with you. There I'm going to go with Pamela. Robots are going to be a lot more reliable to trust. In that regard, robots are going to be a lot more reliable to trust than people. I mean, first of all, okay, I haven't worked in 20 years. I have no idea what the work environment is like. I know what it was getting to be when I retired, 1987, something like that. Okay, and that is people, they're in the conference room, they've got their own agenda. In some cases, they're thinking about, okay, how can I get, they're working on their next job, not the current job, all kinds of politics going on. I don't think robots are going to have the political agendas that you see in the business environment and in the meetings of today. I would rather have a robot than at least some of the managers and people I've worked with. I'm an auditor, and I've said, okay, I looked at your department. I looked at they have these emergency plans, and I've looked at your plan and ain't gonna work, and here's 46 really good reasons. Stupid things you say, okay, I'm gonna call up this guy and so he can come into the office. Ain't gonna have no phones. How you gonna call the guy up? And even after, showing them, beating them over the head. Okay, well, yeah, I guess you're kind of right. And then they don't do nothing. That's my rant.
So how? Let's take my day job for example, where I'm head of drafting at an engineering company, and part of my job is to enforce is to set forth a vision towards how the company uses our design software. And a robot could find, in my position, could find the most efficient way to use that software. But what will it do when the employees just say, no, I don't wanna, or no, we can't because of our clients? The robot's head's gonna explode. It's, it takes the amount of human creativity to work around these weird little bureaucratic problems that I deal with all day long. Because in the end, my job is dealing with humans, and who's better suited to deal with humans than humans? I don't know. So at least I think I'm safe there for a while, until the robots get smarter than humans, and then all bets are off.
I agree with you when you talk about creativity. You're talking about things like vision. You have a particular vision, and you want the people on your team to follow that vision. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to, let's say, a guy screwing up, I think, again, the politics. A robot's not going to have the politics. The robot's not going to have
an important part of my job is politicking. Unfortunately.
Yeah, but are politics really that? Should it be? Should it be a part of your job?
Yes, I think so. It should, because I'm a manager of people. But I'm also work for a company that has an interest it's trying to move for, so I have to work within those bounds. And I can't work within those bounds logically, because a company is not a logical entity. It is a entity that is designed to make as much money as possible. And the best way to do that may not be the most logical way to do that.
Well, let me turn that around. The more likely scenario would be the people who are doing the job are robots. The people you're interacting with are robots. So once you know what their programming is, your job becomes easier.
They're certainly a lot more whiny than your average robot, but sure.
Yeah, it's that element of creativity. Well, let me ask you about,
they're creative people, so they're not.
And anything involving creativity, humans beat robots.
For now. There will be a time when they will probably beat us in creativity too. God, I hope that's for a long time. Because I really like being creative.
Okay, what do you guys think of this? This is a guy named Fahad Mojo, writing in the New York Times. And got a plan. Okay, robots got all our jobs. What are we going to do? What's the environment? How are humans going to make it?
I have Hulu. I should be good for a while.
In that kind of an environment, I don't know. Any event, let me discuss my little article here.
Mm-hmm.
It says here, let's say computers come and take most of our jobs. It may not seem likely at the moment, but computer scientists and economists, people who deal with economy, all right, offer widely varied
economologists
ideas of how deeply automation will affect future employment. And for the sake of environment, let's say within 2 or 3 decades, we're in the robotic state of America. Okay. In robot America, most manual labors were replaced by bots, and that's already happening now. Truck drivers, cabbies, delivery workers, airline pilots will be superseded by vehicles that do it all. Doctors, lawyers, business executives, even technology columnists for the New York Times will have their ranks thinned by charming, affecting, all-knowing algorithms. How will society function after humanity has been made redundant? Their plan, now they say you would have universal basic income. And with universal basic income, when you give everyone, that says free money. What it comes down, and actually Finland has started to do something like this already, our Fenjanis in Finland. Now they're doing it to replace some of their welfare programs. Instead of having people on welfare programs and, I don't know, food stamps or whatever they're saying, here's X amount of money, it's yours, it's up to you, to spend it in what you want. And people will hopefully spend it on the necessities. Okay, when you give everybody free money, what do people do with their time? Will they goof off? This is most people. Or do they try to pursue more meaningful pursuits? Do they become entrepreneurs? How would this UBI affect economic inequality? How would it alter people's psychology and mood? Do we as a species need to be employed to be fulfilled? Or is there merely a legacy of post-industrial capitalism? Get rid of capitalism. Let's see. Imagine the government sending each adult about $1,000 a month, enough to cover housing, food, and health care basic needs. This UBI would be aimed at easing the dislocation caused by technology progress. It could be bigger than that. Let's see. It's gaining support among some venture capitalists. Rather than a job-killing catastrophe, tech supporters of this UBI consider machine intelligence to be something like a natural bounty for society. The company has struck oil and now it can hand out checks to each of its citizens. These supporters argue machine intelligence will produce so much economic surplus that we would collectively afford to liberate much of humanity from both labor and suffering. We're talking about divorcing our basic need to work. For a couple hundred years, we constructed our entire world around the need to work. Now, if we're talking about more than just a tweak in the economy, a fundamental shift, I think it's what they say is now replacing the need to work with what you want to work on. You eliminate that need. The stress, got to make that paycheck, etc. Stress is gone. You don't have to make that paycheck to take care of your basic needs. So it could eliminate a lot of stress. It would really eliminate, I don't want to say it would eliminate poverty. I don't know that that's ever possible. I think it could really reduce it. So what do you think? what do you think about the experiment of giving everyone enough money to take care of their basic needs? How do you think that would affect people? Would they basically goof off? Or will most people really, now they're free, get involved in doing much more creative stuff?
That's a hard one. You would definitely reduce stress, for sure. And people would definitely pursue creative ventures more. But I think what you'll lose is human innovation. I think as a species, our technology will stagnate. Because one of the things that drives our innovation is greed. You know, why does someone become an entrepreneur? Why do most people become an entrepreneur? The pursuit of getting more money, or more capital, or more power in a specific industry. And I think if you take that away, there'll be less incentive to innovate. We don't need to innovate anymore. The robots are there. So maybe the robots will be the next species to innovate forward, and we'll stagnate. We'll become like a pet, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to say. Humans are, their behavior's finicky. They're hard to predict as a group.
Because it hasn't been done, so people go and do it themselves. If it's already been done, then nobody needs to do anything.
Yeah. No, I don't like the idea of stagnation. I think that bothers me a little bit. It kind of perturbs me.
We need to create a system so it doesn't happen.
It looks like Pamela in the chat room is saying, I know people who would just drink beer all day, every day, and I know people like myself who would just keep doing what they're doing, family, study, community. That's true too. And I think everyone will react to that environment different. I think she's right. I know I have been in positions where I have for a long period of time not worried about working to make ends meet. And I got very bored and depressed, just doing nothing but creating for no purpose, for no financial purpose. It drove me up the wall. I can't work like that. I have to have some kind of motivating pressure to get anything done. And I feel like there's people like me out there as well. So.
Well, one thing it could do is the people who are not interested in getting creative, they only work because they gotta have enough money to put a roof over their heads, etc. They're not really particularly ambitious. Well, those people are not going to be the people in the workforce that you'll be dealing with. Those people, the creative people left, everyone who's left in the workforce is somebody who wants to be there. They really want to be there. You don't have to say, hey, you get that done or I'm going to fire you. Not going to happen. People are going to be there because they want to be there.
But what's the point? Working on what? Towards what? We've already established the robots are doing all of our jobs, so what are we working on?
Well, you're working on that vision you talked about. Designing that new kind of building. You know,
the robots
maybe a
do that for
floating
me.
city. You're going to design a floating city.
Well, the robots
Maybe
design that. I press a button, it's done. No more vision anymore. They did that for me. I just have to run the program floatingcity.exe. It's done. All right. What am I doing here then? There's no vision. I can't instill a vision on a team of robots. The robots are going to do what they're programmed to do. They don't care what I think.
Pamela in the chat area says that a lot of people won't be satisfied with just meeting their basic needs. They want
Well,
the
she's
shiny
specifically
new
saying won't be
car.
satisfied with
They want
$1,000 a
the
month,
swimming
which I
pool.
won't because I don't know where you guys live, but that won't work. That gets me a cardboard box here.
I think it could work. I like the idea, but my question would be, I'm not so sure where all is this money coming from. And what you'd have to do is you'd have to eliminate all the welfare programs. You'd have to eliminate enough government expenses so that the money raised, let's say through taxes or whatever, would pay for this basic paycheck. And as I say, they're going to try that in Finland. They've already passed the legislation.
Well, I think it goes beyond that. I think at that point you have to eliminate money. Because you're taxing what? There's nothing to tax at that point. The robots are doing all the work. There's nothing to tax. You have to just get rid of money. You can't even have that anymore.
Yeah, you have consumer. What are the robots making? They're making stuff so that people can use that stuff. And the people would be the consumers.
So the robots are selling that, and the humans are buying that product, but they're buying it. Well, this gets complicated. Oh man, this is getting kind of cyclical. Where the heck does that money come from? Yeah, I can't figure that one out. That's weird. That gets kind of that's an odd economy to wrap my head around. Just late at night and while affected by scotch, my brain's not going to be able to figure this one out.
Well, I think there are a lot of people. Kyle's talking in the chat room, like Kyle, where a lot of their income, a huge portion of their income, just going to pay the rent. I mean, he's working long hours, and he's working long hours just to take care of his basic needs.
Oh yeah.
You know, wouldn't it be better?
Him and a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. In the United States, we have that income inequity where an awful lot of people are barely making ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
That could address that problem. But I don't know. I think what we got to do is we got to wait and see how Yanni's Finland, how that little experiment in Finland works out.
That will be interesting to see.
Discussion stories. This is fun. Instead of just talking about regular, ordinary, I want to talk about. Well, let me just briefly. Hooray! Hooray for the environment. We got monarch butterflies coming back to Mexico. Hooray! And what they measure them by the acre. And in 1996, there were 40 acres of monarch butterflies. 2013, it was down to like 1.5 acres of butterflies. 2014, 7 or 8 acres. 2015, we're up to 10 acres. So hooray, monarch butterflies are making a comeback, and it's because the Mexican government and other governments are doing things like there was a lot of illegal logging, and the logging was taking the environment away. They have stopped much of the illegal logging. In the United States, these monarch butterflies, they live on, I think it's milkweed, and you now have organizations that basically planted and built milkwood fields on the route that the monarch butterflies take. So a conservation success. Manatees. Manatees, they had a record count this year in Florida, the highest number in I think maybe 5-10 years. I don't remember the exact time period. But the manatee population is on the rebound. It was disappearing. It's still endangered, but in fact, there was a trend maybe 10 years ago or so, it went from threatened to endangered. And I forget exactly how far the population fell. Maybe as low as 1,000. Not really sure, but it's been rebounding, and it's now up to 6,000. So conservation success stories, conservation works. And another conservation success, it's actually an environmental success, is Oregon. The state of Oregon is the first state in the United States to pass a law saying they will eliminate coal-fueled energy. Eliminate it by 2030, which is in just 13 years. And right now, they're a very progressive state in that regard, but they're still getting 30% of their energy from coal-fired sources, and they're going to eliminate it, is what they say. New York, the governor of New York, wants to do something like that. So on energy efficiency, energy conservation, helping the environment, what you're seeing is a growing bottom-up support for changing how we live, changing the kind of energy that we use, and there's real progress being made bottom-up. Not so much at the highest level as yet, but at least all the governments, they got together in that little conference, and at least they agreed it's a good idea, and they've set some goals. I don't know if they will keep them, but at least everybody is agreeing that we got to get off the coal bandwagon.
Do they have a plan set forth for what energy sources they want to switch to?
They're going to solar and wind. Definitely going for renewables.
Okay, because it's easy to say we want to be off coal by 2035. Asterisk, and then it's tiny print. We'll just switch to the natural gas. Okay, it doesn't really solve the problem. You're still burning stuff. But no, renewables is good.
I would start by
step.
I would start by city inside Oregon, like throughout the state of Oregon. I would go every year. They would probably, I don't know how many different towns and cities there are in Oregon. I would make Portland. I'd go Portland, and then I'd work on 2 different towns every year, per year, and just keep going year by year, adding more solar panels and switching over what they're relying on. Otherwise, if they're just waiting for everything to go together, it'll never happen. Because then the prices will change. I don't know. I'm speaking mumbo jumbo. Not complete sense. Sorry.
No, that's right. I got the right idea.
Seems
and
reasonable.
Oregon, I know, is one of the states that's actually put state money into building charging stations for electric cars.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? You should do that up here.
Let's see. Okay, I'm going to get another discussion going here, and it's going to be hard for us. 3 of us have a Y chromosome, so we can't really relate to this particular story. And I posted it on Facebook, and I got an interesting response from all my female Facebook friends, including Pamela. Very interesting response from Pamela. So you've got a company in the United Kingdom, and it's called Coexist. And they're planning to create an official period policy designed to allow women to take off time without being stigmatized, in the hope it will make the workplace more efficient and creative. And he said, this is interesting, it's an attempt to synchronize work with the body's natural cycles. This is Bex Baxter. She said, I've managed many female members of staff over the years. I have seen women at work who are bent over double because of the pain caused by their period, but despite this, they feel they cannot go home because they can't classify themselves as unwell. So it's the way society is making some of these women feel like, it's not real a legitimate illness. This is unfair. If someone is in pain, no matter what kind of pain, they should be encouraged to go home. But we wanted a policy in place that recognizes and allows women to take time for their body's natural cycle without putting this under the label of illness. There is a misconception that taking time off makes a business unproductive. Actually, it's about synchronizing work with the natural cycles of the body. For women, one of these is their menstruation. I really butchered that one. You know what I mean, guys. Well, at least Pamela knows what I mean. Naturally, when women are having their period, it says they're in their winter state when they need to regroup, keep warm, and nourish their body. The spring section of the cycle, immediately after a period, is a time when women are actually 3 times as productive. I did not know that. I did not realize that there's an energy boost after a woman comes off her period. That's really interesting. My team's been very generous. We're able to make time off when we needed it, but it always is put back in. So in this particular case, there are 24 out of the 31 workers in the business, 24 are women. And by taking advantage of this cycle, low productivity, high productivity, it's really helping the company. In the past, any proposal to allow women, for example, to have time off because of their period has been derided by both men and women. In this context, menstruation is seen as a liability or a problem, and it's like giving women special treatment, absolutely ridiculous. And it also can kind of fall in line with like anybody. As Pamela, let me Pamela can't. Let me see where I got it somewhere here, Pamela. Here we go. This is really interesting what Pamela said. Brilliant, great idea. I'm useless for the second day of my 5-day period. Still thrice as productive as most people, but useless compared to the other 27 or so days in the cycle. This is using science to tap into the most productive times of their employees, and that's smart. Next, I would like to see circadian rhythms taken into account. That's good. I am most productive between 12 p.m. and 12 a.m. However, that doesn't suit a 9 to 5 traditional vocation. When I was nursing full-time, I tried to get out of afternoon shifts because they fall in between those times. I could work my, it says outs out. I'm not sure what, sorry, Pamela. Work my guts, maybe that's guts out, in the morning and the night shifts, and be a great nurse too. But then I would also sleep away my days to make up for it. I did it for 6 years, and then the industry lost a nurse because I couldn't sustain myself. So one, you have the idea of taking the stigma away from natural productive productivity cycles. For women, it's while they're menstruating. For guys, it's your circadian rhythm. Exactly with me. I'm a night owl. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. My brain's just getting started. I had to work to everybody else's cycle. I had to get up. At one point, I was getting up like 4 o'clock in the 5 o'clock in the morning, getting to Newark Airport, flying on a plane. Of course, I'm flying on a plane. Getting to the south, maybe, and then working on a job for 6 weeks, getting 3 hours sleep. Not very efficient, very inefficient. So I really like the idea of matching work to people's most productive cycles, hormone cycles, circadian rhythm cycles.
It's a nice idea. I like it.
Works to get rid of insomnia.
Maybe.
Would you, if you're in charge of that, your own company, putting you on the spot here, Identity 4. Don't worry, Pamela's in Australia. She can't come punch you in the nose, so don't worry about that.
Oh.
You're in charge of your own company. Would you allow this kind of thing for your women workers? Would you allow them?
Oh gosh, it's so. That's the hardest question ever. It depends on the nature of work. The kind of work that we do at my company, we have women in the office, and they are in key positions doing very important stuff. And I am not in control of our project schedules. So one of the things that makes this very hard, while a great idea, is that if a project is due at a certain date and a sizable percentage of the staff who's working on that project is out for illness reasons, that deadline doesn't change. So my worry is that while it's a great idea to work around female biology, I think that's wonderful, what'll happen is that the business reaction to that will be to be less inclined to hire women for key roles in those positions because of that. And that's a bad thing.
Well, they already do that anyway. So
yeah, and what we need to make it worse. We don't want to make it worse. Oh, the thing is, businesses react the opposite way of what's good, which is frustrating.
You've got to remember that the story we're talking about happens in the UK, completely different mindset. And
oh, thank goodness. Rational people, finally.
Okay. So
here in the States, they would just hire women less to get around that problem.
They do that. We're already discriminated against because if you're in your breeding years, they won't hire you because they figure you're going to take time off to have a baby and stuff. If you're getting married, they won't hire you. If you're getting divorced, they won't hire you because they think that you're going to be too emotional to do your job. What bullshit.
Yeah, from a business sense, perfectly logical. From a moral sense, it's horrifying. Not. It's just horrifying.
So,
bad response.
Yeah, can I finish what I was saying though? Mm-hmm. Is that women know what their cycles are. We calculate it all the time. That's how we check we're not pregnant or we are pregnant. So if you have a project that's due on a certain date, you can still work around your period because it doesn't come as a surprise. You don't just wake up and go, "Ooh, what's that? I'm bleeding. I wasn't expecting that today," because you were expecting it. We know exactly when it's going to.
Personally, as a personnel manager, I would be perfectly happy having that additional variable just in how I staff projects. It doesn't bug me too much. My bosses would probably disagree, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, but you were saying that if staff are off and they're not going to get it done in time, that they will get it done in time because they know ahead of time when they're going to be having their period, so they can work around that. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to, the project's still going to get done on time.
So if you know about the project earlier, and you know about it's coming at you, you're saying that it won't be a problem because you're going to work harder beforehand, then you're going to deal with it, and that you're going to come back to the project, and the project there won't be much left. It'll be less stressful.
Yeah, it would come down to project scheduling, and staffing would have an additional variable. bosses
But-
here tend to be resistant to any kind of change, so it'd be hard to sell them on it. I would be able to do it. I don't.
If you just said that the women are in charge of this anyway, I'm pretty sure those women are menstruating now, whether you know about it or not. So aren't they getting their work done and having their periods? So what would be the difference in letting them, nourish their bodies on a couple of days a month when they're at their worst, so that they can work more effectively on the days that they're at their best? They're already doing it.
No
It's
difference.
means, yeah, it's just exactly that's what I'm saying.
Logically,
it's just
but
that
here in America, businesses are not logical. They're greed-based. They don't think logically about their business decisions. They think reactionary. It would be hard, and you would see a lot of the wrong response to that kind of initiative, which is sad.
And that's Chelsey's foot.
Oh,
And
look at that
that's
little
her other
foot.
foot.
That's adorable.
Yeah, I
She
think
just wanted to show you her
Chelsea's
feet.
going to grow up. Well, first of all, she's got a mother who's letting her be very creative, letting her do her own thing, not the helicopter parent, so to speak. So I think I think those businesses that get the most. Whoops, what's that? Ooh.
Oh, so she just was showing her books up.
Those businesses that get the maximum out of their employees are going to be the ones that are the most successful, and they're going to be the ones that get the best employees. Now, you think, for instance, Silicon Valley, deadlines, right? The deadline is, okay, guys, this has to be finished by April 15th. Go do it. Now, it shouldn't make any difference how I go about getting you that work done by the 15th. If I'm really ambitious and I want to impress the boss, I'll work extra hard and I'll give it to you the 10th. But if I'm not, I'll just, maybe I'll go out and play golf. What difference does it make? As long as I give you that work by the deadline. I'm a woman. I got to take I want to take my kid to visit her, my divorced husband or something. What difference does it make? I'm going to take a couple of days off. I don't feel well. I'm going through my period. What difference does it make? As long as they produce and give you the work by the deadline. And what we've got to get away from is this 9 to 5 business. You got to work 9 to 5. The only thing that counts is productivity. This kind of thing that takes advantage of people's circadian rhythm. I'm going to work at night. I'm not going to come into the office at 9 o'clock like everybody else. I'm going to do my work at night. Who cares?
Yeah.
It depends on the nature of work, though. I know in my line of work, people benefit from being in those office hours because what we do is very collaborative. But as a company,
Can't they do it like we're collaborating right now at 1 o'clock in the morning across the world? Can't they do it like this?
Maybe some people would take to that. As a company, we tend to lean more towards the you work at your own rhythm more so than many other companies. But we've also been burned a lot of times because of that. The people take advantage of that system and produce less and don't get their stuff done on time, and that makes my bosses very nervous.
It's all about
hard to
you fire
balance
those
that.
people. Those people are going to do that regardless of the situation.
Oh yeah,
they're just
I'm perfectly okay firing them. My bosses, however, they're all pity cases and they don't want to fire them. Makes my life hard.
That's why you need robot. That's why you need robot bosses. Robot boss is going to say, "It's not here by the deadline. You're
The
fired."
robots can
Or
fire
I
them.
got a
It's
laser.
perfect.
A laser zapped.
You can't argue with the robot firer. Oh, this is great. This is a great idea.
So, okay, so I work at Walmart. Here at Walmart, we don't have a lot of people with work ethics, so less work gets done and more people talk less instead of doing their job. So I talk, I'm chattable, but I say hi whenever someone passes I don't see often, or so I focus on doing my job. I'm friendly, so people come to me. But since my other coworkers are standing around chatting, and when someone comes, they go and help them, because that's their job. Other than that, they're supposed to be when everybody's quiet and we're just making sure we're all in sync, collaborating. It's the work's not as hard, but see, we need 14 people, and there's only 6 of us, and our whole crew in the back room. And now we're out not in the back room where less talking. Like if you're in the back room, you talk less because you have to get that stuff done, and then you gotta go outside and you gotta go stock shelves. And if they put them together and they're not working and they're talking, but they're working slower. That gives people a reason to fire people because they're not doing their job, or they like these people, they will not show up to work. They will so my bosses, so this week we had the same people who call in every week at least once, or they call in once a week, or they leave in the middle of the shift when we need them the most. And my Walmart corporate, their policies and our need of workers in our store, these people will be gone once, or like I haven't been gone from my job in 5 months, 6 months. I haven't missed a day, or unless they scheduled me. And it's only like one day there was a storm, I left early, and the other day there wasn't. The other day I missed my. The other day they scheduled me onto a new schedule, and I didn't notice it because my routine brought me I had Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, and all of a sudden I'm working Wednesdays, so I didn't notice that, and I missed that day at work. Well, these other people, my bosses won't fire these people because boy, I'm not very confident. It's just, I didn't hear you, Jan.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't know if it's good or bad for you, Kyle, but those are the kind of jobs that are going to be taken over by the robots.
Yes.
But that's where you got to get to school there and get some technical training. Or start your own company. See, you and the guys who are really doing the work. See, that's another aspect of it. It's productivity. Now, retail, you know, it's hard because you're going to get a lot of people who don't care. Yeah, they're going to get the paycheck. What do they care? They don't work hard. But working hard makes the time pass faster. So I could never work slowly or just kind of, because working fast, it's just the time flies, and then I can, you know, spend more of my time doing stuff I really like to do. So I don't know. All right. Let's see. I got a couple of more. I got some neat little monkey science stories. We got a little monkey over there in Australia. Hello, hello.
All right.
That's rough. That's my little monkey. I was going to ask about, did you see that a bunch of scientists have confirmed that about February being the hottest month on record? You know how you know how 1998 was the hottest year, and then it started cooling, and everyone said, oh, you know, global warming isn't happening, and then that's when it was changed to climate change. And the whole, so all the heat that was trapped in the ocean in 1998 when it was the hottest year has come out, and February was the hottest month. Did you see that?
I didn't have to see it. It's it kind of hits you over
No,
the
I know,
head.
yeah.
Anybody who's still, I think even the most conservative politicians say yes, the climate is changing. Texas, conservative country, they're running out of water. So even, you know, I mean, outside of some really, really off-the-wall stupid people, everybody knows the climate is changing. So what you're saying, Pamela, you just see that in all the mainstream media. You even see it on Fox News, for Pete's sakes. Nobody can deny that information, that the climate is changing. It's affecting people.
Yeah.
It's affecting Vermont. I got a friend, my friend Charlie Hahn in Vermont, where you have the ski industry. Got no snow. Every year, less and less snow. You got to get the snow machines in. Cost you money.
I'll have to pull up the article, but the temperatures that they expected us to be getting in like 2100, year 2100, were happening in February in some parts of the world. I'll have to find it now. I read it at about 4 o'clock this morning. I had a bit of insomnia. So that's... I know what's happening. I've lived here in the tropics 15 years, and this February was the first time I thought, I need to buy an air conditioner. It was bad. And then, yeah, I read it this morning. It's like, no, it wasn't. Because I actually thought maybe it's just me getting older, you know, because you do become more, oh, it's cold, oh, it's hot when you're older, you know, you get a bit cranky and cantankerous. And I was like, oh, well, I'm just heading towards the sliding into 40 now, so that's what happens. But no, well, I am heading into 40, but at least it's not just me. It is the planet. Let me find the article I read in my history.
Oh yeah, it's getting worse. I can definitely feel the climate changing here in Seattle as well. Like every summer gets hotter, and I had to break down and get an air conditioner as well because they're just becoming unbearable. And the winters are becoming wetter here. We just had the wettest February in Seattle history. It's absolutely bonkers. It's going crazy. It's going to be really weird.
Well, I didn't buy an air conditioner because I knew it would be all right, and now we're into March. Yeah, it's cool.
Really weird here in Minnesota too.
What's that, Kyle?
It's been really weird here in Minnesota too. I mean, it's normal that it's cold all the way up into late March, and then it starts warming up slowly into May, and I mean that we had. Oh, it is? Okay. I'm just going to go to the chat room and speak on there.
It's kind of funny because my friend Charlie, he likes the cold weather. He is extremely annoyed they got very little snow and didn't have any below zero temperatures. There you go, Kyle, Minnesota. They love cold weather. People born into it, they love it. And I guess the issue is, what should people and governments do? How much in resources should governments put into mitigating climate change? The people who are opposed to it's the opposition is to spending government money, taxpayers' dollars, to mitigate, to change dramatically how the government does business, how we live, because of climate change. They don't believe it's human activity that's the great cause of climate change.
If we don't spend taxpayers' dollars to mitigate climate change, there won't be any taxpayers.
Every dollar you spend on fighting climate change in prevention saves you a lot more money than it would to be to mitigate afterwards. It's a better
Not
investment.
just saving money, it's actually saving life. I meant that we won't have taxpayers because we'll all be dead.
A lot of us. Yeah, it's a scary, sobering thought.
So if we don't spend money, it won't matter because we'll be dead. So that's our option, people.
Yeah. Solve it now, or there won't be anyone left to solve it.
Yeah, that's it.
Even being the most optimistic, solve it now, or engineering your way out of that mess later is going to be horrifying. No. Either way, the solution is to solve it now. Throw as much money as you can at it now.
We just need to get rid of money. Money doesn't exist anyway. It's just a fabrication. So let's just get rid of it.
Money is silly.
Fight it with money is set fire.
What's that, Kaya?
I said fight it with money instead of fire. Like what you were saying, in a different term.
Yeah.
You know, it's I can relate to that because my income at the point where I took early retirement was much higher than what I'm getting now through Social Security and my pension. But my lifestyle is better. You know, I'm not spending the money. I've got a 17-year-old car. What the heck do we need a new car for? I got a bed that's like 40 years old. Hey, what do I care? It changes. It has changed my priorities, and I'm living better on much less money than before, and I have a better lifestyle. I'm enjoying it more. So even when I see people talk about, like, my income level is low enough to qualify for a U.S. Housing Department grant to put new windows, new double pane, energy efficient windows on my condo. So that, I'm not making a whole bunch of, you can see the luxurious surroundings I have. I love it. I don't want it, the things that are important to me. Here, this I like. I like the internet. I like talking to people. I like having hangouts. I like to read about science. I like my education. So I think one of the things when you say money, it's like credit. What are you using it for? Are you using it on stuff that's not really important? And if you didn't do that stuff, you'd never miss it?
Yeah.
I
had only 8 days in Bali, as you know, visiting my friends and had a bit of a look around, and I only went for a short time to start with because I wasn't sure what to expect, and I didn't want to stay with my friend too long and cramp his style. Now, yeah, I love Bali, third world country, so I'm going to go back and rent our own place and stay for a couple of months at a time, and you can have a much better lifestyle and a lot less money. And I know that's a very first world snobby thing to say, but they rely on our tourism dollars, so they want us to go there and take advantage of their poverty. And it's really beautiful. And you don't need anything fancy there because everyone's poor. So it's great. You just go and they're all fabulous cooks. And they're poor, but they're the happiest people I've ever met. I found their company much nicer than most Australians, who are just a bunch of grumpy people paying off $1,000 iPhones. What do you need a $1,000 phone for? Mine was $89. It makes phone calls and text and does text messaging. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, that's a good example. Your friends in ballet. What do they do with their time? Are they doing anything creative? Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here we have a big problem with youths get bored, so they get into crime because there's nothing to do. And they think it's up to the government to fund activities to keep the youths from participating in crime when they're bored. When the youths get bored in Bali, they build these huge kites together. So we were coming down the street at 1 o'clock in the morning one night, and I went, oh, what are all these, kids in hoodies doing down here? They were building a kite, and they didn't realise the time, and they forgot to go home. And these kites I'm talking about, they're like 200 feet long or something. It takes about 200 of them to fly it. So you see them on the beach flying these kites. It's everything is artistic there. Everything is creative. There's very little crime. It's just a really nice way to live, and it's as a result of not having money, rather than in spite of it. It's and sadly, it is getting more and more Western. So I'd like to go and spend some time there now before it gets too Westernized. There's a Starbucks there, and there's a McDonald's there, and yucky, yeah.
Mommy.
Yeah. So that's the way I like it. So when Bali gets too Westernized, we'll have to find somewhere else to go and hang out for a couple of months a year and just chill. And you've got the internet there, so I can still work, and you've got the phone there, so I can still do that. Yeah.
Pamela, Chelsey knows what's good for the future. She's the new future, so we're supposed to hand it down to her. So if she says yucky, it's yucky, right?
Yeah, that's right. She knows. You know, don't you? Well, she's never had McDonald's in her life. She'll be 2 next month.
2 years old.
Yeah.
Goes fast.
It does go fast. And she's trying to use my iPad.
Cat. Cat.
What I'd like to do, don't know, it's almost 2 o'clock, 1:46 a.m. here where I am. Don't know how late it is where you guys are, how tired you're getting or anything. What I'd like to do is talk about a couple of neat little monkey stories.
All right.
And then finish, Justin's not here, talk a little bit about politics. Iranian elections and the U.S. elections. And when anybody wants to leave after you get bored to death with that, we'll end the hangout. Okay, monkeys.
Yay!
This is really neat. It is neuroscientists have developed a brain-machine interface that allows primates to use only their thoughts to navigate a robotic wheelchair. Duke University. They use signals from hundreds of neurons recorded simultaneously in 2 regions of the monkey's brains that are involved in movement and sensation. As the animals think about moving toward their goal, in this case a bowl containing some fresh grapes, the computer translates their brain activity into a real-time operation of the wheelchair. In some severely disabled people, even blinking is not possible. For them, using a wheelchair or device controlled by, this is the key part, non-invasive measures like an EEG, a device that monitors brain waves through electrodes on the scalp, may not be sufficient. We show clearly that if you have intracranial implants, you get better control over a wheelchair than non-invasive devices. So there's your key word, the device in your brain. They did some experiments, implemented hundreds of hair-thin microfilaments in the premotor and something called the SOM-ATOS sensory regions of the brain of 2 rhesus macaques. They trained the animals by passively navigating the chair towards their goal, the bowl containing the grapes. During this training phase, scientists recorded the primates' large-scale electronic activity in the brain. Researchers then programmed the computer system to translate brain signals into digital motor commands that control the movements of the wheelchair. As the monkeys learned to control the wheelchair just by thinking, they became more efficient at navigating towards the grapes and completed the trials faster. In addition to observing brain signals that corresponded to transitional and rotational movement, the Duke team discovered their primate brain signals show signs they were contemplating their distance to the bowl of grapes. This was not a signal that was present at the beginning of the training. This was a surprise. It demonstrates the brain's enormous flexibility to assimilate a device, in this case a wheelchair, and the device's spatial relationship to the surrounding world. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. It's, you know, you've got these, you have the ability, well, at least with primates in this trial, to very precise control, only using thought, to control a wheelchair. But it involves putting something into your brain. You guys ready to have a brain implant to improve?
No, I don't want to shave my head.
It would be interesting to get the perspective from someone who actually lives in a wheelchair. John H. Maloney is another TWIS minion, and he's on Facebook. I wonder if we can get him on sometime to ask, because he's in a wheelchair. I don't want my brain tampered with, but if I lived in a wheelchair, I might have a completely different perspective.
Yeah, it would be the person who can't move at all. They have no control. They're paraplegic and they can't move at all. In that particular case, if it can help you get around and move, then oh sure,
That's a huge improvement.
That's pretty amazing. So every week I have a story dealing with improvements for paraplegics and those kinds of devices. Okay. Before you guys collapse, I can see Paul.
The statement.
You're getting a little tired there, Paul. I can see it.
Oh no, I'm not tired. It's just the hangover's kicking in now. Fine. We're fine here. I just got a little scotch in me.
See, I have heaps of energy because my period ended 2 days ago.
Bringing it back. I like it. A little callback there.
This is another rhesus monkeys. Not only are they learning how to control wheelchairs with their thought, they're protected from the Ebola virus. And
That'd be nice.
rhesus monkeys were completely protected from Ebola virus when treated 3 days after being infected, when they were treated with a compound that blocks the virus's ability to replicate. Encouraging preclinical results suggest this compound, GS5734, should be developed as potential treatment, and this is the U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases. In animal studies, treatment initiated 3 post-infections, so these animals were already infected with Ebola virus, resulted in 100% survival results of the monkeys. The animals also exhibited a substantial reduction in viral load and a marked decrease in physical signs of the disease. Now this GS5734, it's a novel nucleotide nucleotide analog prodrug. It inhibits Ebola virus by blocking the virus's ability to replicate its own genetic material. With this process inhibited, the virus can't make copies of itself. Additionally, we saw no evidence from genetic sequence analysis that the virus was able to generate resistance to GS5734. It's got favorable characteristics. It's a well-controlled chemical synthesis procedure, so it's easy to make. Shows substantial post-exposure protection against Ebola virus, non-human primates. And basically what it comes down to is they're going to look for more funding. And, I mean, this would be really terrific, particularly in the third world, particularly in those parts of Africa that got thousands of people died from the Ebola virus.
3 days after. I'm impressed.
That's amazing.
That's huge. Man. You know, stories like that just make me so encouraged for our future. You know, that's amazing. It's not even a vaccine at that point. It's literally a cure.
It's something we've ranted about in the past, and yet something like this could be a vaccine probably. And yet there are people, even though vaccines are proven to prevent illnesses. Last week we talked about cervical cancer, preventing cervical cancer with young girls getting vaccines, and yet you got a whole bunch of people, significant number of people in the United States, opposed to vaccines.
Yeah, we do here too. It's ridiculous. And we've just brought out the legislation that if your child's vaccinations are not up to date, that's your business, but you won't receive the welfare benefit. So pretty much anyone who has kids, unless you're earning a really, 6-digit number, you get paid something towards your kids, right? So you won't get that anymore if your kids' vaccinations aren't up to date. And now it looks like they're bringing in, if you're on unemployment benefits as an adult and your vaccinations aren't up to date, you're going to have that cut. So that's how many anti-vaxxers we have that we have to force into legislation. So yeah, you can't make the wealthy people vaccinate, but hopefully they're vaccinated.
No.
And I approach state interference to an extent, but I agree with this legislation. So I've had some of my friends, say, "Oh, what are you going to do about it?" I'm like, "Nothing. My kids' vaccinations and my vaccinations are up to date, so we're cool." I mean, not that I'm on unemployment, but and not just for the benefits. I'm doing it because oh goodness.
Where is it? Whoops.
Did you hear all that? You guys are frozen then.
The kiddo's taking over.
Yeah, there's a cost to society and a savings for getting people vaccinated and eliminating disease.
Mm-hmm.
I have some other stories we could talk about. I'm going to develop. Go ahead, Pamela.
Are your vaccinations free? Are your vaccinations free? Because they're free here, so there's really no excuse not to have it done.
It depends. Sometimes your healthcare provider will pay for them. Sometimes your office will pay for them. Sometimes not. It's kind of random.
Yeah, being over 65, I think the flu vaccine. I never got that before until I hit 65 and realized it's a good idea. I paid $10 for it, but I don't know if that's because I'm on Medicare or not. But I only pay $10.
I don't know. It varies. Like depending on the health insurance plan you're on, it could be free. I know the office I work for offers flu vaccines for free, just as part of the benefit of the company. They don't want us sick, but and then sometimes they cost money. Who knows? There's no set standard for that.
The only reason it can be set into legislation here is because it's already offered at the government expense. So, there's no reason not to do it. It would if they're making you pay for it there, it would be much more difficult to put into legislation, I would think.
Yes, and then that's the case. So.
But Ed, as a veteran, I thought you got that, for serving your country. I thought you got all that free.
I could go to I don't use the Veterans Clinic for anything. I could, but $10. I go to the supermarket, get it for $10. That's no big deal. But you're right. I could go to the Veterans Hospital. Well, things like.
Weren't you drafted?
I don't have confidence. Trusting robots. I don't personally trust the Veterans Hospitals to provide it.
Oh no.
Sorry.
But Ed, weren't you drafted?
Yeah, I was drafted.
Yeah, so you didn't even volunteer. So, man, I would be getting whatever you're entitled to. I wouldn't be paying $10 for anything. You didn't even volunteer to serve your country. You had to.
I'll tell you what.
That's your business. Yeah.
I've had, teeth. Okay, I'm getting a new plate. I had a couple of teeth got removed. All right. No way am I going to the VA hospital dentist. I'm sorry. Not going to happen. I'm going to go to this other dentist that I know, and she's very good. She actually gives me a break on the cost of cavities stuff, where a lot of dentists charge like up to $200. She charged me $75, but she's competent. I trust her. I'm not going to. I mean, I've had medical care. Okay, I'm sorry. 1964, 1965. Maybe things have changed, but and, they're good to a point. They'll get the job done, but if you want, grade A treatment, don't go to the Veterans Hospital.
One of the arguments used in the United States against universal health care or government-mandated single-payer health care is people always point to the VA as an example of universal-type health care. The VA, there's a lot of people unhappy with it, so they use that as an argument against universal health care. So, Ed, you're not alone in your dissatisfaction with them. My dad complains about them as well. He'd rather just get it done by somebody competent than go to the VA.
Do you think they do that on purpose?
I don't know. It's being incompetent is certainly cheaper. I don't know. I don't think it's on purpose.
I think.
Well, it discourages you from using it.
I don't know how it wasn't several years ago, maybe 5, maybe 10, I forget. There was a real problem with the VA hospitals, the people who were there full time, really substandard care. And that was a big scandal. Even Congress get involved. So maybe after that they're doing a very good job with the people in combat when they come home. Excellent job with the prosthetics and the current veterans. I would say are really getting top-notch care. But the full-time care hospital type of situation, I don't know. And I don't know if it's neglect. I don't know if it's a funding issue. I don't know what. So for now, the guys in the military now probably get pretty good care. But those that are, really not healthy and living full time in a VA facility, probably not so good. But you mentioned universal health care. And the United States, really, most of the other countries around the world have universal health care. Mostly all of Europe, Australia, Canada, I think, has universal health care, I think. It's just the United States. And,
Canada.
why is it just the United States? And the only thing I think is, one, the healthcare providers who are making the money have no interest in going to universal health care. Maybe a lot of doctors are against it. The nurses, the healthcare professionals dealing with patients, I think might be in favor of it. The people making the big bucks, not in favor of it. And I think the argument is we get a better quality of health care. We have the best surgeons in the world, et cetera, et cetera. That's the claim. I don't know if that's true.
Hard to gauge. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think another problem, another argument, is that here in the United States, there is, when people think about government programs, they think about waste and bureaucracy and lack of funding. And so when the idea is proposed of, what if the government takes care of your health care? Well, the government can't even give me my driver's license in a reasonable amount of time. They're going to screw it up because they can't even run a DMV. Okay. So then the idea gets poo-pooed because there's a distrust of our government's ability to do anything.
What do you mean? How long does it take you to get a driver's license? You walk in, you do the paperwork, you get your photo taken, and you wait, 10 minutes, and then you get it and you walk out.
Well, like a couple hours. But
why does it take a couple of hours? What are they
because
doing?
it's the DMV. I don't know, because they're slow.
It just sounds like they're being deliberately crap.
Well, they're generally always underfunded. The government programs here, are, especially ones that don't deal with giving money to defense contractors, tend to be heavily underfunded. So people have recognized that anything run by the government is going to be underfunded and inefficient and crappy. So whenever everyone's like, we should have universal health care. Government running my health care? You mean I got to wait in line like the DMV? And then the idea gets poo-pooed. Because there's that distrust. There's that understanding that the government here cannot run so much as a popsicle stand without screwing it up.
Yeah. So they've done that on purpose. It sounds like if you don't want to do something for someone, then okay, if I don't want to make coffee for someone, then I'll make them a really bad cup of coffee, and they'll never ask me to make them coffee again, right? It just sounds like that's what your government's done.
Well, kind of. In a way, the politicians are certainly underfunding them on purpose. Those programs. The programs themselves are not serving us badly on purpose, but the people running those programs are. The people funding them. They're doing it on purpose to say, so our politicians are underfunding specific programs in the government in order to give the impression that the government is broken because they're underfunded, and then using the fact that the government is broken as a political platform to get elected to try to fix the government. So in that case, that part is on purpose. The fact that the DMV is slow and inefficient is not their fault. It's their bosses and their funders' fault. Because they're trying to use that for a political agenda.
I wasn't blaming the individuals. That's what I'm saying. I wasn't blaming the individuals. No,
that's not even the department's fault.
They've set it up to be crappy on purpose. That's what I'm saying. They're making the United States a bad cup of coffee, so you won't ask them to make your coffee anymore.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, it's right. You're correct. But because of that,
That
healthcare, universal healthcare is going to be hard to implement because of that. Because they're selling that narrative that the government is broken, the government can't run anything. Which is crappy because, yeah, the government can't run anything because you're making it do that on purpose. You made the government broken, you know.
Yeah, it's well, like the DMV. I can give you an example. There used to be a local office, and okay, so I had to get the picture license. So you know, what first thing you do is you get a number, and you sit down, and you wait for your number to get called.
Oh, that waiting.
I don't know how long I had to wait. Maybe a half an hour, not that bad. They closed it. And now there's an office right next to the railroad station that's open 2 days a week. The last time I went there to get my photo license, I had a line out the door. I think I'm going to guess an hour. I don't know because they closed an office. But I can go to AAA now. So if I need a photo ID, now my AAA office is, I got to drive half an hour to it to get to it. But now if you have a AAA office near you, you can have them do it, and that's a lot quicker, and that relieves, you know, that's kind of a cost saving. You can also, like regular registration, I just handle it. In fact, I went online the last time. I just did it online. So they're moving gradually. They're bringing it into, you know, the 2016. We got to, you know, government agencies are still in 1950 and gradually bringing them into 2016.
I've never
Kicking
thought
and
about
screaming.
going online to get my address changed for my photo ID or have a new one shipped in that way. That's pretty cool. Ed.
Yeah.
I got my birth certificate online.
I was going to say, how are you, Richard? How is the eclipse looking in Indonesia? Have you got your people lined up?
Yes, in fact, I was just made a little note online saying that I'm sorry I'm late. I did 4 podcasts tonight, edited and uploaded, so that I've got an entire week now all set up to go, so that Aviva Yamani in Indonesia can leave for the total eclipse expedition with a clear mind, knowing that the podcast is taken care of. So I've been busy, and Pamela Gay just sent the box of eclipse glasses to her, and so she's got the eclipse glasses, and she's ready to go. Tomorrow, I think she leaves. Woohoo!
Fantastic.
Yep.
But it's on the 9th. So is it going to take her 4 days to get there?
Well, it's
I
kind
thought
of
she
remote.
was here where the eclipse is. No.
I know, it's way out east of Borneo. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's hard to get to. And she's going to get there a day or two ahead of time to coordinate some people that are coming in to give talks and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to go, but I'm not going to now because I was going. There's parts of Borneo and that I wouldn't. I wouldn't navigate as a single woman with a toddler female without a male escort.
Yep.
And the male escort that I had lined up had to be here in, not escort like that. No. He had to be here in Cairns for a court date. So yeah, I won't go this time, unfortunately. But I am coming to the United States in 2017 for the eclipse there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to start in the St. Louis area and decide whether to go east or west depending on the weather. So I'll have the maximum flexibility. I might go west toward Nebraska because that's the best. The likelihood of clear skies is there. But I've got a number of friends who are going to be in Kentucky, in Tennessee. So we'll just wait and see.
My friend that we're coming over and staying with, he's in Sacramento, so we're going to meet there first, and then he said he'll take us to where it's going to be best. I think he said Idaho or Ohio. I don't know. But, yeah. And he's also promised me bears, because when he was here, we don't have bears in Australia. When he was here in 2012 for the US, I took him to see some kangaroos in the wild, so he owes me bears.
There. Yeah, fit for tat. Exactly. Yep. One of my best meals I ever had in my entire life was in Sacramento. I was at Xerox was paying for it, and so we ate a team of like 4 of us ate sushi for like 3 hours. It was wonderful.
That's a lot of fun.
Oh, nice to you make, Richard. Unfortunately for you, we've covered a lot of science stories. You know what I've got left?
What have you got left?
The politics.
Oh,
All right.
no!
I will try to make it as painless as possible.
Is that possible?
The gist of, I got 2 articles, won't even read the both of them. The 2 interesting things. One is in Iran. In Iran, they've just had an election. And it's somewhat similar to situation a little bit in the United States in that you have outsiders. You have people like Trump, Bernie Sanders, outside the establishment, who are getting a lot of support because people are angry and they express themselves. They're angry at the government. They're angry at the establishment. Now in Iran, a little harder, because the religious leader gets to vet who's going to run for office. And so the religious leader is going to favor people who are conservative and favor his point of view. That's one obstacle. The second obstacle is they prevent activists from going on radio, anything, from social media. So the activists can't use regular social media channels. Of course, they created their own. And so even though the government put all these obstacles in front of them, the liberal activist wing elected a majority of people into the Iranian legislature, and including the chamber that will select the next religious leader. So that's pretty remarkable. All these obstacles that were put up, and yet they were still able to communicate, organize, and get their supporters elected. Now, it's not exactly like the... Oh, yes. Not exactly like the... Oh, sorry.
There's a delay. Echo. I'm just saying, yay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not exactly like the United States. The religious leader still has control. But you know what? They're getting a clear signal from the people. And Iran, compared to most other countries in the Middle East, has a better functioning democracy, including an evolution towards a more democratic form of government. So that's a pretty amazing story to me. And you look at the American political situation, particularly Trump. And whatever you want to say about the guy, he's outside the establishment. And he said, okay, I think, you know what, I think I'm going to run for president. He did it. Guess what? He's got the most delegates right now.
Wow.
That's amazing. And it's an example where the establishment, the Republican establishment, had no clue about the amount and degree of anger American Republicans have directed towards Washington Democrats and Republicans. And that's expressed by the people who are voting for Trump.
They beat the drums for years and years that government is bad, government is broken, and people finally realize, hey, wait a minute, you guys are government. Why are we even voting for you? It's another voting for Trump. I don't know if that's much better, but it's definitely different.
I'm not
It's certainly different.
for Hillary or any of the other candidates. I'm just going to vote for Canada.
Vote for the, who's that guy with the rubber boot on his head? He's got my vote. He says he'll get me a pony.
And on the Democratic side, it's much more the establishment winning in that particular case. Sanders is still getting a lot of support.
He's doing okay.
He's going to have his campaign will have a long-term impact on how the Democrats go about choosing future presidents. So he's going to have an impact. He's forcing the leading candidate, Clinton, to probably talk about issues in these debates she may not want to talk about. So he's having a positive impact in that particular respect.
Well, kind of. She still really doesn't want to talk about issues very much.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of frustrated with that side of that particular party. I'm not super happy with the way it's going. There's definitely not enough options. I don't particularly like Hillary. She doesn't answer any questions. And I get frustrated at Bernie Sanders' support base, which seems to think that Facebook likes is more important than actually voting, which is frustrating. It's an interesting race this year. That's for sure.
The dice seems to be rolling in Hillary Clinton's direction.
Yep.
I would have guessed she would have a more difficult time winning the Democratic nomination and a much easier time defeating any one of the three Republican candidates, be it Cruz or Trump or Rubio. And particularly Rubio is the guy the Democratic establishment seems to prefer, and he's just not. I mean, he won his home state.
He was. When the race started, Rubio was kind of, it was him or Jeb Bush who were predicted to be the Republican nominee. Those are the golden boys. Rubio's not doing so good, and Bush is out. He's not even out. Yeah. Now it's Trump. No one predicted that. That got weird. He came out of nowhere. Because people are angry at the establishment, so they're going with a non-establishment politician.
I look at this process. One, money has talked. I think if you look at the candidate at the presidential election, the candidate who spent the most money has won. Probably if you look at Senate, most of the Senate races, there's a very good chance the vast majority of candidates who win are the ones who spend the most money. And that to me is something of a broken system.
Well, it got weird on the GOP side because I feel like the person who spent the most money on the GOP side was Jeb Bush, and he's out. So maybe that system is broken now. I don't know. It got weird. Everything was following that logic until Donald Trump entered the race, and then everything went absolutely crazy, unpredictable. Now it's chaos. Now it's mayhem. Now no one can predict anything. all the models are out the window.
I don't know if you don't mind, Pamela. I wanted to comparing the American system to the Australian system. When I know, for instance,
Our system.
I don't know how much you've read about the American system.
Yeah, I read all the time about it.
Now my perception is one difference could be that in the United States, voters select who the candidates are going to be for the office. In a parliamentary system, such as Australia, maybe Canada as well, it's the party who chooses who's going to represent the party in the election. However, you can still have some independents, such as yourself, run.
Yes. That's a big difference, yeah. So even if you're voting for, for example, Kevin Rudd was leader of the Labor Party. I don't care for the Labor Party or the Liberal Party or any of the other parties, but I liked Kevin Rudd, so I voted for him. But then his own party got rid of him and replaced him. So if you're voting for someone that put it for the person, you're at risk of losing them. But then what do? Do you vote if you don't like the party? I mean, who do you vote for? So it doesn't work either. But with your system, I thought the people were voting for Sanders, but because of the whole delegates thing, Hillary got more anyway. So
that was true up until this last time, Super Tuesday, as it's called, when you had 11 states held primaries, and Clinton won seven or eight. So that really, I think, really hurt Sanders a lot. He has to show he can win more primaries, particularly in the big states. But another difference with the parliamentary system versus the American system is the situation with our government, with Obama, a Democrat, Congress being controlled by the Republican Party. They two clash really, really hard to get any kind of initiatives going. You almost have a government by stalemate. With a parliamentary system, you're voting for individual representatives, and the party chooses the prime minister. Is it true that Australians do not vote directly for the prime minister? You vote for the representative, and the party chooses the prime minister? So with that case...
Yeah, you're voting for the...
Now that means that the prime minister is going to come from the party that controls the legislature. So it's much more likely that they're going to be able to implement their agenda. You have Hillary Clinton, Sanders. Even if they win the election, if the Republicans control Congress, there's not that much the elected Democrat can do.
But that's not always, Justin says it all the time, it's been put in place that way so that change can't happen overnight. Is that the founding fathers didn't want things to change that quickly. They wanted the way they set it up to stay as it was. I'm sure, though, that they would not be happy to see how things are today, because things can change very slowly over time, and that's what's happening. But here we can have fast changes. It's not always a good thing. I don't know. It depends what it is. And then something that I think is good, other people might not think is good, and it's exhausting.
Yucky.
It's yucky, yeah. So
governing humans is hard work.
Yucky.
Confusing.
Yucky.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yucky.
Yucky indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get back to
So
early
I don't have
stories.
to answer.
What happened, guys, when that first robot runs for election? You
He's
going to
got
trust
my
that
vote.
robot?
Someone who can side with everyone.
Yeah, I'd probably vote for a robot.
Ah.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
It is time for the next State of the Union. Our status is nominal.
Pamela, that
Have a good week, Kyle.
One more
She's waiting.
interesting development involves politics, but the trend in the United States in terms of population, where the population has been going, been moving away from the north into the south. You think of the more conservative south.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a development in Texas. And in Texas, the legislature passed a law that allows campus carry, which is on campus, people can carry a firearm on campus.
Right.
A couple of limitations, but people can carry, they can go to class. People can go to class with a weapon strapped on. Okay, now there's this very distinguished professor, University of Texas at Austin, Frank Steiner, is not very happy about that. And he said, that's just not a good environment at all. Now, he has been openly recruited in the past by many universities from around the country, and he said, hey, I love Texas. I love the University of Texas. I'm going to stay here for the rest of my career. Not now. Now he's looking at something like that, and he's saying, what? Students can come to class with a firearm? That's just not appropriate. He's looking at how what he perceives higher education is being treated by the legislature, primarily controlled, religious tendencies. And he's looking at it and saying, this is just not an environment I'm happy with. And he's moving off to the University of Pennsylvania. In this article, I'm not going to read it, 3 pages long, there's more professors at Texas universities who are going through that same kind of a process. And it's not inconceivable you might see something of a brain drain. You might see if the academic environment is controlled by the legislature, controlled by conservatives with a moral religious agenda, you might see those professors, some of the better ones, the Nobel Prize winners, saying, I think it's time for me to move on to another state, another university, where the environment is more to my liking.
Yep.
Well, it's very unfortunate because I think one of the things that would solve that problem in the South is more education. But now they're getting less, and that's sad.
Yeah. I don't know.
Why do you need to take a gun to school?
The thought behind that is that there's been a lot of campus and school shootings, and conservatives feel that the solution to that is, well, if the students were more armed, they'd be able to fight back. Utter madness. It'd probably cause more problems than it'd solve. But that's their thought anyway. They push that forward. Because if you're on campus and you see a student going crazy and shooting other students, your instinct is, if I just had a gun, I could shoot the bad guy. Yeah, it's great if you're in a Die Hard movie.
How good a shot are these students? Because they're probably more likely to shoot themselves in the foot than the bad guy.
Or shoot one of the victims, or one of the teachers.
Shoot the wrong person.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Well, they're horrible, and that's why it's a stupid idea. They think like it's like an action movie where the the hero student comes in and he's got an open carry and he kills the bad guy and he gets on television. No, what's probably going to happen is he's going to shoot wildly, miss, shoot one of the other kids, and then go to jail.
And then you make yourself a target, and the person doing the shooting. Yeah. So what about, instead of using... Okay, no, I understand the idea behind it. So what about being armed with dart guns? You know, so you just put them to sleep. So if you do shoot the wrong person, or you shoot yourself by accident, or you just have a nap and you wake up with a pretty bad headache, but you don't actually kill anyone.
We're talking about
and
campuses
if you are
with fraternities,
shot,
John. That'll probably be used for something different. Probably not a great idea either. Let's not give them any weapons. How about that one? No, great idea.
No, but I'm just saying that works. Their reason behind it too, and then no one gets killed. And then you can take the bad guy down, and they'll be cuffed and everything by the time they wake up, and they can be charged and put through the judicial system rather than shot.
You give the student a dart gun, he's going to be just as irresponsible.
I mean, if you're coming into a school doing a shoot-up, if you're coming to school with a gun and shooting people, I mean, you're mentally ill. There's, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So then you need help. You need treatment.
Well,
you know, people who are not insane don't do that. Only insane people do that.
Yeah.
So why do we want to kill these people? They need help.
I don't know.
I say dart guns.
Yeah, but the dart has just as good a chance as hitting the bad guy as the bullet would, and it's not very. So both of them are bad.
No, I know. So if you hit the wrong person, they just have a sleep.
Yeah, and you go to jail for assault. I don't want to.
No, because you're defending the person.
Super soakers.
Water. No.
Yeah.
Or
no, really, could the person, if you were trying to save someone and you accidentally shot the person you were trying to save, could they sue you? That's crackers.
Yes, they can. This is America. Yes, they can.
No, that's insane.
That's nuts. I think
that's insane. That's just insane.
We're bonkers up here. We're just you know. But I think the best solution is to have a very well-educated, well-trained campus police force, because they're the ones who are going to go through the training to know how to use these lethal and non-lethal weapons most appropriately. I wouldn't give it to a college student. I was a college student once. I was drunk half the time. Don't give me weapons. I'll fuck it up. I'll make boo-boos. I'll shoot it. You know, I'll accidentally shoot someone's car tire out. You know, instead of getting the bad guy. It's so dangerous.
Yeah, you have. Yeah. You have a real divide again. You have rural communities that have grown up with guns. They carry rifles. They do a lot of hunting. Second nature.
It's a tool.
I'm saying, what's the big deal? I got the gun rack on my pickup truck. What's the big deal? Against urban cities. Now, I'll tell you, I can see Alaska. I can see an urban community in Alaska. No big deal. You got a rifle when you're walking downtown. Probably not a big deal because everybody's got them.
And they got bears.
Yes. Yeah. They got.
Yeah, watch out for those bears.
But New York City? No way. It would be insane to allow open carry in a big urban city. As you said, in a college campus, alcohol, testosterone, firearms, very, very bad combination.
And
women on their periods.
And to solve a problem that's supposed to be solved by law enforcement. Students aren't law enforcement. They're not trained to be law enforcement. They're trained to be students.
You know, in some states, isn't that the idea where the high school teachers are packing with firearms? The idea being, I don't know, I guess they can shoot some bad kids at the bad kids.
I would
don't know what to
imagine
do.
that in order to
But
do
there are
that,
actually
the
some
teachers would have to go through more
where
training.
teachers are given firearms for protection in case somebody goes running wild in the school and they'll shoot them. I don't know.
Better
That's a
than the
real
students.
divide in the United States. How about Richard? You live in Virginia, right?
Aye, true.
I perceive Virginia being a little bit more of a gun culture, maybe.
Yeah, there are guns here, yeah. I haven't got one to hand, but there is a...
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a bonkers idea to have students carrying weapons.
That's another one of the issues. I believe there's a case coming before the Supreme Court dealing with gun control. And that's another one of the issues is now that in the United States, because one of our justices died, we've only got 8 justices.
Yeah.
So if they split 4 and 4, that means the court doesn't make a ruling. It goes
Right.
back to the lower court.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some a city or a state implemented gun control legislation. I might have this backwards, but I think there's people or an organization, maybe the NRA or somebody who's saying that's illegal. That's against the Second Amendment. And the lower court judge, I think, ruled with the plaintiffs against maybe the state government. And now it's before the Supreme Court, but there's 4 judges. So I don't know. You might wind up in a situation. The Supreme Court's supposed to be the final arbiter, and in this case, they won't be, because they could be split 4 and 4. It's another example. You need that majority. You need that 9 people sitting on the court.
It's going to be interesting to follow that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I thought that Obama had appointed a Native American female judge.
He's thinking about it. Yeah, he hasn't actually come out with the final nominee yet.
He hasn't nominated, and I think what the Senate is wanting to block all nominations or not even vote on them.
Yeah.
They wanted nothing to do with anything he proposed. It's gridlock.
Yeah, there's the chairman of that committee. I don't know which one it is, and he's saying that he won't even let the nomination discussion begin. I don't know if he's going to keep to that in the election year, but Obama has no chance of nominating anyone who's perceived to be too liberal. The Republican-controlled Congress will never agree to that. So it's going to be the next president who's going to pick Supreme Court justice.
Hasn't he said if they don't let him appoint someone, that if Hillary or Sanders burn it in, they'll appoint him?
Yeah.
Or is that not true? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and he'd be a good choice too. He's a constitutional scholar.
Yeah, but for a Republican point of view, wouldn't that be worse than whoever he appoints?
Sure.
Maybe, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So why don't they just shut up and let him appoint someone?
I-
Otherwise, he's going to be appointed.
I don't think they thought that far ahead.
Yeah,
I think maybe they're gambling that a Republican will win.
that's the whole idea. Yeah.
That's what
except
they're
that
gambling.
Republican's likely going to be Trump, which they don't want that either.
I have no idea who Trump will pick.
They painted themselves into a real corner there.
Yeah, let's think. Who would Trump pick? Let's see. Cheney? No, he's not a lawyer.
That's
Who would he
cutie.
pick? Oh man. Yeah, what
You know
kind of
what?
monster would that monster pick? Oh.
He would have a
Judge
television
Reinhold, I
show.
don't know.
You know how he picked The Apprentice? He
Yeah.
had a bunch of celebrities or something, and he picked one. There you go. Got
Never
it.
reality show. Yeah.
So can he appoint? I don't know. Just he could appoint anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
Crazy.
I know we're going to make America
He's not
great
gonna
again.
win.
I want to appoint Kanye West. He's going to make the court great again. I love him. I'm a huge fan. He's great. He's gonna be great. He's gonna be the best. I love him. Everybody loves him. Oh, it's gonna be horrifying.
Oh yeah, he could pick anybody. I don't think there's any qualifications in the Constitution.
No.
So you don't even have to be. You don't even have to have a law degree to be a Supreme Court judge.
I don't think so.
Nope, not required. The Senate won't go for it. Hopefully, any nomination will be blocked.
Yeah, Chelsey thinks
hope.
that's funny too.
If
So,
Trump becomes
seriously-
president and he nominates a judge, the Senate's not going to fall behind Trump. They're going to hate him.
I
hope.
think Robert Taft, who was president, and then who was the next guy that came in, or one of the next guys that came in after Taft? They nominated him to the
Herbert
Supreme
Hoover, wasn't it?
Court. Huh?
Herbert Hoover, wasn't it? After Taft?
Might have been Hoover. Might have been Hoover. But they nominated him for the Supreme Court, and so he went from president to judge on the Supreme Court. And I don't think he was. He might have been a lawyer. I'm not really sure. But he's a full-time politician. I don't believe he ever. Like now, it usually comes from one of the circuit courts.
Right.
But they don't have to. But I think Taft might have been onto the Supreme Court purely for political reasons, and not for any qualification. He might have been unqualified from all practical purposes, and there might have been one or two others.
So yeah, Trump could pick anyone he likes. The Senate still has to approve that person. So at least we got some kind of balance there.
Yeah.
They will not approve, a Lindsay Lohan. I hope. All bets are off these days.
Oh, and she might do a good job. Isn't she clean from drugs now?
That's what her lawyers say. Sure.
And she's broke, so she needs the money. And no one else is going to hire her, so, don't be knocking.
It'd definitely
be
be
alright.
a very good, stable gig for her, because it is a position for life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think Lindsay Lohan would be a great nomination.
Yeah, but what are her policies? Anyway,
Yeah.
she'd muddle through it.
No clue.
I don't think she'd
You
know
would
either.
probably approve drugs. Make all drugs legal. She'd probably vote for, approve that.
All right, okay, plus one. This is sounding better and better, and I don't like that. Stop it, guys. Stop! You're giving him ideas. Don't give him ideas.
Sorry, my daughter just called Indonesia, so I had to hang up and send my friend a text and say, I'm sorry, Chelsey called you, not me. Oh dear.
Ooh.
Can you not make international phone calls, please? Thank you.
You just frightened me out of my mind. Because you look at the impact social media has. Because if to run for president, you only have to be a native-born American. That's it.
Over the age
Right.
of 35.
Well, here's my prediction. So it's going to be President Trump, and then it's going to be President Kanye West, and then it's going to be President Camacho, and then President Not Sure. Because by then we'll have reached idiocracy.
I was just thinking that. It's sounding more and more like that movie.
That movie's scary. You can't watch that movie.
I know. I watched it when I was pregnant. It was a horror movie when you're pregnant. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what have I
The first time I
done?
watched it, it gave me nightmares. Like, it's legitimately
I'm
scary.
bringing a person into this world. No.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.
The election process is expensive, right? Well, let's just change it and pick the person who gets the most Facebook likes. Hashtag tweets. Next president, right?
Well, then it'd be Bernie Sanders.
Or Kanye West.
Or Kanye. He's 53% greater than like Genghis Khan or somebody. Yeah. Another narcissist. Great. All these lizard narcissists. Lizard sociopaths running for office. Great. Fantastic. Again, I should just vote for that guy with the rubber boot on his head. He seems the most sane. He promises me a pony.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The Republican convention's going to be
Broker.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's going to be brokered. Even if Trump wins, they're not going to pick Trump. They can't.
I don't think they have any choice.
They do. Nothing's. If he wins all of the delegates, they could still say no.
Yeah.
They'll just be like,
they won't.
no.
By party rule, the Republicans are actually more democratic than the Democratic Party, because the superdelegates and all of the delegates who for the Republicans have to vote by party rule. They have to vote in proportion to the state primaries. This is superdelegates. They don't have a choice, at least for the first round. Whereas on the Democratic side, the superdelegates, there's 400, can vote for anybody they want. But the delegates have to vote by party rule in accordance with the state primary for at least the first vote.
Mm.
Yeah, on the Democrat side, those superdelegates can go either way. They have historically always gone with the majority, whoever's winning the most. They'll tip in that side. I don't know.
I'm tempted to move the conversation away from politics.
Ah! There we go.
And Paul, you and Richard, you both work with a lot of technology more than I do.
Yeah, a little bit.
Some.
Do you think VR is going to be the next big thing? And how quickly do you think that might happen? Virtual reality, these devices they're coming out with?
It has potential. I can't see another technology that would be adopted other than VR.
And for gaming, definitely.
It's certainly in the expensive zone still, so I can't do it. But
Yeah.
I'm seeing more content produced for VR, which is pointing in the direction that may be where things go. I know Discovery Networks is starting to put out content in VR, and it looks absolutely fantastic. I don't have VR, but there's other ways to view it, which it's just really neat media. I know they've started releasing some Mythbusters content in VR format. So yeah, I think it's moving in that direction. But it's going to take a while because of affordability of the technology. The devices themselves are cheap. The Oculus Rift is like what, $600, $700? About as much as an upper end computer screen, but the video card and processor in your computer you need to run it is very expensive. Like I tried to look at it and saw the numbers on that and was like, no, no, I can't afford that. But
Right, guys, I gotta get going and make some dinner for my baby. So I'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Pamela.
She's
Other Pamela.
Bye.
I'll hang around as long as you guys want to talk about different subjects. But have either of you tried a VR device?
Haven't yet.
Nope. I have not. I really want to though.
Well, for instance, you're making music. Okay. If you could, I'm thinking of a concert. Now, I'm not thinking of gaming, which is what Richard mentioned, the pretend universe. But if you could use a VR device, and I'm thinking of clarity, sharpness, immersion yourself, where you could actually seem like you're actually at the concert.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be amazingly cool?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't see much use for it on the music side. But my day job is building construction industry, and there I see a lot more use for it. Being able to visualize a building being put together in 3D space, which is my day job. That would be cool if I could go into one of my building models and see it in person standing inside of it. Oh, that pipe goes through a beam over there. I never noticed that. Oh, well, we should probably fix that. Well, that'd be really nice. That'd be a very useful tool and a lot more efficient than the way I do it now. Looking on a tiny little computer screen trying to pan around.
That's exactly what's going to happen. That happens. I was reading about a young girl who needed a kidney transplant. So it was a baby. And her father, an adult, was willing to have the transplant. So you have the problem of, okay, putting an adult kidney, which is not dramatically bigger, but bigger, into a baby. What they did was they made a completely 100% realistic 3D model of the man and the baby. They then created the model and said, okay, let's figure out exactly how this surgery is going to go and exactly how to fit it. And it worked. And that's what they're doing, and it dramatically increases the success rates of these kinds of very delicate operations. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
And did they use VR to simulate that surgery, that procedure?
That was really 3D technology. It was 3D. It was a 3D printer. But it's a similar
cool
kind
thing.
of
You
thing.
can simulate that in VR, and not only are you simulating the spatial relationships from the man to the child, but you're also acting out the scenario itself, playing it like a video game. So maybe the surgeon who's doing this really complex operation, he sits there on VR goggles for a week and does that operation 50 times and gets really good at it. That's a powerful tool.
Medical students, there's a cadaver shortage for medical students to practice on.
Yeah, like digital
Here's your
cadaver.
answer.
Virtual dead guy. It's perfect. That'd be a very complex model. But you could have different models. Open up the liver surgery model here. It's just an abdomen and a liver. It doesn't need to have the whole human. But that's a great learning tool, a great practice tool. And very cheap, because you have the software and you have the hardware, and you don't have to keep producing cadavers. That infrastructure's there. You just say, I want to practice on a heart today. Oh, put the heart floppy disk in, and off you go. You're practicing heart surgery now.
Richard, what about the space program? Any kind of testing. You can do that testing in virtual reality.
And in space programming, I know in airline stuff and in test like flying, they already pretty much do that. The VR maybe isn't wrapped around your head like goggles, but you're definitely in a virtual environment doing a lot of your tests. It's called a flight simulator. It's just a very big, giant VR helmet you sit inside of.
Oh yeah, and one way that Oculus Rift or other VR gear would come in handy in the space program would be, for instance, if there's a moon base constructed, they can robotically land robots and a robotic bulldozer of a sort, but sitting in LA or Houston with the VR eyepieces on and drive the thing around and do the construction from the comfort of your own home, so to speak.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
Be able to call out and order pizza and sit there and eat pizza while you're driving the bulldozer on the moon. And for Mars, because of the time lag, it takes as much as 20 minutes for signals to come to and from Mars. You could fly a craft to Mars, sit in Mars orbit, like the equivalent of a geosynchronous orbit on Mars, and in the comfort of your spacecraft, and without having to go all the way to the surface, put your nuclear-powered bulldozer on the surface of Mars and drive it around, and get your habitat
it
ready.
gets even better than that. You don't even need to send them that close to Mars. The way that you would handle the time lag between setting up something on the moon, which would be in mostly real time, mostly augmented reality.
2 seconds.
Yeah,
2.5
so
seconds.
you could handle that with a bit of interpolation, a bit of simulation, but mostly augmented reality with real video feed, the slightly lagged feedback. On Mars,
running a bulldozer, that wouldn't be an issue,
You would simulate the Martian surface based on orbiter data, and then you're in full VR on Mars. You act out what you want to do in the simulated environment, and the 15 minutes later, it happens on Mars because you have an accurate model of Mars. So as you're doing construction further out from Earth, your environment you work in becomes more simulated. So you solve that time gap with more computing power and having more accurate information. It just becomes, instead of video feed, you're now in a completely VR environment.
Right.
And you can still do it from Earth. Great.
Astronomy. Now, I don't know virtual reality fits in, but certainly modeling would. Because
like galaxy collisions and whatnot, being able to see them from various directions. And
the information, our ability to use the information we're getting now with these new types of telescopes, etc., so complicated to make them very, very precise. You really need computers to do all that number crunching.
And lots of them.
At this point. So it's not VR, but it's certainly computer modeling. And I don't know how important computer modeling is currently for astronomy, but I would guess it's got to be more important into the future.
Well, they do lots of modeling in astrophysics, in cosmology. All the modeling of stellar interiors and things you can't see with telescopes. Observational stuff is there. It's the data crunch, the deluge of data that's pouring out of the ALMA radio telescope array, and that will be pouring out of the TMT if they ever build that one, or any of the other large telescopes. It's just going to be pouring out huge amounts of terabytes every day. So that's going to have to be computers will have to be sorting through all the data to flag the things that are of interest for the people to look at. But VR won't enter into any of that, I don't think.
To do almost any science, you now have to have the computing power. So you need the supercomputers. The supercomputers are now, and computing power now becomes as critical a part of the research as the actual research itself. Can't do one without the other.
Yeah. A large component of science research nowadays is programming. Scientists are now programmers.
Oh yeah.
Very important. Because part of their job now entails how do you get your tools to do the science you need to do. Well, your tool is now a computer. You must learn to program your computer, because that is the tool you use as a scientist.
Okay, Richard, I have one final sort of question. Don't know that you can answer it, but you might. We're talking about gravitational waves, which we've talked about quite a bit. Has been talked about quite a bit.
Right.
Now, my perception is that with gravitational waves, you're talking about space-time. You're talking about general relativity.
Right,
You're
right.
not talking about the standard model.
Right.
Okay, so with general relativity and space-time, okay, I can visualize. Well, you're talking about the collision of the black holes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two black holes collide. Now, they have deep gravity wells, and that's why they've been pulling in material because of their deep gravity wells. So they've collected a lot of mass, and mass dictates the depth of the gravity well.
Right.
So now you've got these two massive objects, and they come together. Their gravity wells might be very similar, perhaps.
Yeah, pretty similar.
What happens? Do you have one supergravity well with the combined mass of the two black holes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one big motherfucking That's
big giant dip.
Yeah, and three solar masses from the 29 solar mass and the 36, three solar masses vanish in the energy to create the gravity waves, and the rest goes into the new singularity. I just saw something on Weekly Space Hangout. Or no, it was mentioned on the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, a podcast you should all listen to. And one of their things they talked about was that I hadn't heard of was that it's very likely that the two black holes were created from one star. At least for a while it was one star. Two stars collided a little off center. Instead of going straight to each other, collided a little off center and formed a kind of peanut-shaped single star that spun around, and then that formed the two black holes. Otherwise, two black holes would be far apart from each other and wouldn't be in this close association, spinning around and going faster to join together. So it was probably two really big stars that collided, and that formed two black holes that then, they were right there. But yeah, it's you just add the mass of one plus the mass of the other, subtract the energy lost to making all those gravitational waves, excuse me, and then it's just one big singularity that's left over. It's still stellar mass. It's not a supermassive black hole, but it's
So the gravitational waves themselves are residual energy from the collision.
They carry energy away from the collision. Yep. I would kind of in a way I'd be very curious to know. I'm not sure I would want to be there, but a light year away from that, what would it feel like? Because it's not just a ripple in space; it's a ripple in space and time. So what would that be like to have that, pass through you?
Probably like nothing.
I don't know.
That'd be weird.
Yeah. Now here, of course, it's only 1/1000th of the diameter of a proton, so it's just tiniest little ripple. Nobody here felt anything. What would it feel like to have that go through? Yeah, if you were a safe distance away, radiation-wise. Yeah.
How intense is that ripple close to it?
Well, we have neutrinos, right?
Yeah.
Neutrinos go right through us.
Yeah, well, that's a different sort of thing. We're embedded, and the neutrinos are embedded in space-time. We're part of space-time, like it or not. The neutrinos are massless particles that just pass right through us, don't interact with us. We are definitely interacting with the space-time. We got no choice but to interact with space-time. So
I think the only way you'd notice is your watch gets slightly off.
Well, it depends on how close you were.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm not sure how intense that is that close. I don't have
right, yeah.
I have no ability to visualize how intense that is.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, would your heart be really
slow, and then slow, and then meanwhile you're going squeeze and stretch
If
out.
I sit out here and I have one hand out here and one hand out here, would I notice one arm get longer?
You might. Yeah,
like
exactly.
How intense is it? I don't even know.
If you're close enough, yeah, your arms one arm might become suddenly half the length of the other one.
Yeah, it's like this arm's suddenly 6 feet long, and for some reason the watch I put on it's slightly off.
Exactly, yeah.
Or is it not that intense? I don't even know.
Well, if you're close enough, it would be that intense, yeah. And that's exactly what happened to LIGO. Of course, it was just this tiny amount, but the length of the two arms did change relative to each other, yeah.
That would be a fun piece of math to do, is to calculate how much your physical arm at a certain close distance from that, how much would your arm stretch in one direction relative to the other.
Yeah.
That'd be fun math. I can't do that math. I can't math.
Yeah,
I went to architecture school, so I wouldn't have to math.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Yeah. And I'm not a professional astronomer because they didn't have calculators when I was in school.
You're not missing much. They're awful little things. Numbers floating around in their heads.
Wonderful little things. If I had this when I was in high school and they had allowed me to use it in high school, they probably didn't allow kids to use calculators in high school till the 80s. I'm not sure when they really started it, but in the 60s, if these had existed, they would have said, no, it's cheating. You can't have that. But anyway, this would have...
Now I got a graphics calculator on my telephone.
Oh yeah, I got one on my iPhone too. Yeah.
It's very handy. Now that I do engineering and I suddenly have to do math.
But anyway.
Yeah. Oh, we were talking. I had a thought.
Okay.
Drifted out of my mind. It's back again. Just like those little, neutrinos.
Yeah.
But. And it's gone again.
I think that means
your mind or the thought. I wonder what. Yeah.
We started out. One of the first stories we started talking about is robots. What kind of jobs robots can do. And you know what? Theoretical physics is not a job I think robots will ever be able to do, because it requires so much imagination.
Yeah. Yep.
They can certainly help with the math part.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
As for coming up with the hypotheses, maybe not so good.
Yeah, not so much. They'd have to be programmed to do that, and the programmer would have to be the genius, and he's going to come up with the idea. So yeah.
And it's completely off the wall in so many cases. You've had this thought, maybe somebody else has had this thought, and you built on it, but it's just taking knowledge and moving it in a completely different direction.
What if space and time was like a rubber sheet? I don't imagine a robot coming up with something as wild and wacky as that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, we're not going to have an Einstein robot. Not going to happen.
Yep. I encountered a guy at my Charlottesville Astronomical Society meeting last night at the McCormick Observatory, who thought he was Einstein. It's pathetic. I mean, he basically, his idea was that science has everything backwards.
Of course.
And there never was a Big Bang, because everything moves in circles. And I can't remember what the other thing was. So God is electromagnetism, right?
Well, you're certainly right, because my head is...
Yeah, right. So I talked to him for a while, and I eventually had to recuse myself before it strike. But no. He claimed to be there at our meeting because he was a seeker and because he was seeking truth. But it actually...
Uh-oh.
I think Richrad just got hit.
Yeah.
Cosmic ray here.
A gravitational wave just hit you.
Oh, I froze for a moment.
Oh no!
Oh no, he's frozen. Ah, oh no, he's frozen again. Anyway.
He's turned into an oil painting.
Yeah. He's melting. Ah.
Ah, he's back. All right.
Yeah. But
I think the internet is getting tired, Ed. It might be time to go to bed.
It's freezing here again. Now the poor guy thought he claimed to be there to learn, but he really wanted to teach us.
Well, he certainly has a very interesting hypothesis. I cannot wait to read all of his papers on mathematics behind it in the next journal.
Yep. I told him he had an interesting idea, but he had no evidence to support it.
Well, son, you got to do the math. You got to show me the numbers.
Yep. Yeah,
show me how to math. Oh, you're gonna have a hard time.
Show me the evidence, and I'll follow you anywhere.
At least get a mathematical model first. That's step one. If you can't even provide a mathematical model in a paper, then we don't even know where to go from there. We can't even test that.
Yeah.
And another thing, when getting back to funding of programs and things, when you're talking about that kind of level of physics, people twice as smart as me can't figure it out. So how in the world are you going to go before some committee and say, I want a whole bunch of taxpayers' money, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work with neutrinos. And you know, the senators are going to be sitting there.
A new what?
This guy, what?
Yeah.
A neutrino? Is that like better than the old trinos?
Yeah.
What is that? Yeah. That's why communication is also a very important part of a scientist's job.
Oh, yeah.
How do you communicate to someone vastly dumber than you, like a politician?
Yeah, and it's important to communicate with the politicians and the policymakers because they're the ones that fund you.
They're your boss. If you can't explain your job to your boss, you're not going to have a job.
I've seen, what is his name? Michio Kaku? Because every time I go on to like Science Daily, there's an advertisement. I mean, he's really pushing, and Kirsten Sanford has interviewed him, and he is a person when he's speaking to a public, he speaks in one way, but when he's in front of his physicist friends, he talks in a completely different language, and like you say, that's important.
Yes, that's a very useful skill. You have to speak to your audience.
Know your audience.
Sometimes your audience is lay people, and you have to learn to speak lay people. And sometimes your audience is other physicists, and then you can speak physicist.
Yep.
It's really, and it's something that I don't know if they teach that in universities to science students, but if they don't, they should. Communication should be half of their curriculum.
Yeah, anybody talking about communications, and I'm thinking of music in this particular case, and I'm thinking of what a musician has to go through to get people to get a contract, to get people to notice them or whatever, and that is also I'm watching the movie Vinyl. Has anybody seen the HBO series Vinyl by any chance? Okay.
Not yet.
I know. I'm going to write that down. Do I have a pen?
It's interesting. It's going back to like the 70s and 80s and following a guy's career. I don't know that it's great, but it is interesting. And one of the things is he has a good ear. So he has the ability, you can see him going to a performer. Someone working for him goes to see a guy who's like a punk performer and says, you know, it's kind of an interesting sound. So he has one of his A&R guys, an older guy, go, and the older guy says, I can't play his instrument. Can't sing. What the hell is this nonsense? You know, what is crazy? And then then he winds up going, and then he has his A&R guy work with the band, and the A&R guy gets them to change to sound more popular. So the vinyl guy, the executive, then comes to watch him and says,
What happened?
Group. What happened? They sound like the other 60 bands I've seen before. Because, you know, he has the ear and he can understand, but the older AR guy is thinking in terms of pop music and popularity and can't register the next great thing. Rap music. Playing with the, you know, with the
turntables.
Turntables.
Wiki, yeah.
You know, anybody who did that and was, you know, the big studio people who went there would have probably said, "What the heck is this nonsense?"
That's
One
not how
guy
you
who was
use
brilliant
it.
enough to visualize it made the big money.
Yep.
Yeah, don't get me started on music pop culture. Oh boy, that's a whole rabbit hole.
Well, tell me, Paul, what do you think about music and pop culture?
No. Nope, not gonna. No. Too late for that.
What's on those screens behind you? One on the left might be SoundForge or something. What have you got there?
Well, no, they're both Ableton. I've got my arrange window over there and my mixer over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I could see a pretty large timeline on the right with lots of different layers.
Oh yeah, it was something I was working on today. Just a little thing I was noodling with. Yeah, it's good fun. I don't do music professionally much. It's mostly a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it pays, but most of the time it doesn't.
Yeah.
Good hobby nonetheless. I don't think I'll give that up.
Do you think it's becoming easier for the unknown artist to become known through things like social media now?
Nope, harder.
Harder.
Yeah. You're competing in a much larger pool. It's so easy to produce music on a hobbyist's budget now. Good music, like you could go in with a studio budget of like $500, and with that software and equipment, you can write absolutely beautiful music if you know how to write music well. And it's so easy to publish it to the web. And because of that, there is so much music on the web. Every kind of genre, a million songs of every kind of genre, which is great for me as a music listener because I can listen to anything I want, and there's so much of it. As a musician, it's kind of frustrating because it's just like let's see, I'm the number 8 millionth band in my city of 8 million. You know, it's like because everyone's a musician. And then my job gets very hard because I tend to, most of my music is written for contract. It's for video games, like indie video games, and because it's so hard to compete as a musician selling records, that all the people who used to make their money selling records are now trying to score video games because that's where the money's at. And now they're in my territory taking my work. And it's not like I can take their job and perform because I can't play anything. I'm absolutely horrible. I can barely keyboard. But now they're taking my job. No, I do games. You go play your guitar thing. But no, it's become harder for musicians in social media, but it's become a lot easier for music consumers. For sure. Like I find so much great music on the internet just because there's so much of it. And I love that.
Yeah, you don't. Why? I mean, I subscribe Spotify. Why do I have to buy a record again? Why even have to buy a digital record again?
No, I still do that, but I'm old man mode. I don't. I like owning the file.
You want to know? Are you one of? I've got Lynn Chevalier. Maybe you, Richard, you might know her.
Sorry, I froze again. Who?
First name is Lynn. She's a older person. She's now a teacher, but she was part of the NASA social group. I don't know if you were part of that. Maybe I'm getting my names mixed up. But in any event, she is she was on Facebook talking about the new vinyl setup, and I would have said, vinyl? Who the heck uses vinyl anymore? But it's becoming a big thing, right?
Sorry, it froze again. She was on Facebook, talked about the new what?
The using vinyl record players, regular vinyl record players, but probably very expensive equipment. And how vinyl has made a tremendous comeback.
It kind of never went away, actually. Like in
she's trying to say that vinyl's. She's trying to say that vinyl's.
I presume she's talking about the quality. Yes, that would be her. She's got these speakers set up, and she's got the whole. I don't know what it costs or anything, but yes, I presume the people who are into it say it sounds
warmer.
Warmer.
Yeah.
Sure. I never noticed a difference. To be honest.
44.116 is fine. Yeah.
MP3s are fine to me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I still buy my music on CDs, so you know that way I've always got an optical archive, you know. That way if all my computers crash, I've still got the disc.
You know, those CDs don't last very long. They delaminate over time. Just a warning.
Going back to late 1940s, early 1950s, I had an uncle. He collected stuff, and he had the phonograph, the tall box with the crank, and the records were like this thick, and it was
78
maybe 78 RPM.
78, yeah.
And I don't know if it's in pristine condition, but it was in pretty good condition, and he was always a little touchy about it. But can you imagine what something like that would be worth now? And it amazes me to see the value of. I mean, I had a record collection then. You know, the little 45s. I had like over 1,000 at one point, but they weren't pristine condition. But imagine if I had kept them, how much that would be worth now.
Yeah,
$4 or $5. Wow.
Here's my one record that I own. See if you can.
Carl said.
Oh, nice.
A Glorious Dawn. And on the back side is the replica of the engravings they had on the Voyager probe.
Yeah, look at that.
Nice. I don't have a record player, so I can't play it, but it sits on my wall. Nonetheless. That was a thing a few years ago. When did this come out?
Yeah, 80s.
2009.
Oh, that's pretty recent.
This was someone had made an electronic music song with Carl Sagan's speaking, and made a really nice song out of it, and I got it on record.
Okay. I've got that on my iPhone actually. MP3.
Yeah, the vinyl. They sold a limited run of these, and they're just like, oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I've still got some LPs over in my storage shed, and somewhere I've got an AR turntable that would theoretically play them, I guess.
I probably should get a turntable. I only have the one record. There's not really.
Can you remember, either of you, both of you, the first album you ever bought? The first album I ever bought was Rock Around the Clock by Bill Haley and the Comets. Now, you guys remember what the first album?
First album I bought was probably quarter-inch reel-to-reel tape.
Okay.
And I had a number of them. And this was when I was in the Navy. I had a reel-to-reel tape recorder and had headphones and listened to music then. And one of my albums that was my favorites was Doors.
The Doors.
Strange Days. Yeah.
Album I bought.
And as I recall, I had my tapes all stacked up on the right-hand side in my bunk, and a guy came along drilling holes to mount cigarette ash butt kits, and he drilled right into my tapes. Yeah.
And you were in the Navy when you did that. And
Yeah,
isn't,
he basically said, "Oh, fuck you," you know. And
I think who was the guy's the Doors performer? I'm blanking on his name, but his father was an admiral in the Navy, I believe.
Poor kid. No, sorry.
I can't remember the first album I bought. A number of titles come to mind. I know whatever it was likely on cassette tape. It was probably Eric Johnson Venus Isle. I don't know.
Yeah.
Too long ago.
And I can go back to that race era when you had the black performer came out with a song or something and performed in his audience, and then a white guy would come along and take that same exact song, and that would be the song that would get all the airplay.
Yeah.
And the most ridiculous, possibly hit record I have ever heard, it was Pat Boone singing Tutti Frutti, trying to sing Tutti Frutti. And Pat Boone even said, well, what am I singing? He didn't figure out he didn't even know what the heck he was singing. And it became a hit record because it was Pat Boone singing Little Richard's Tutti Frutti.
Wow. you broke Paul.
That's just
Paul's broken.
That's just bizarre. Oh, that's weird.
And I forget the name of the guy who was the submarine watching society or something, and he was the guy who first really played the black music, not the white music. He played the black music on the radio, had a very popular station. He would have concerts at RKO in New York City. But I can't think of the guy. I think he came from Cleveland, maybe. But he was the one who, one of the ones who really started getting the authentic black musicians before the mainstream audience. And the white kids went for it, scaring the bejesus out of their white parents.
As they do. As they should. Perhaps. All that devil music, sure.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's different times musically. Everything's a little more mixed. Well, gentlemen, I should probably take off. It's late, and I still have to survive another day of work tomorrow. So.
Oh, you got to work.
Yeah.
Richard, you may even have to work. You got tons of stuff you do.
Yeah. Well,
work.
My work is whenever I'm here in the computer, but I do have a thing I'm going to.
Uh-oh. It froze again.
There. Okay, I'm back. Whew. God, this internet here just drives me crazy. But anyway, Saturday I'm going to do some outreach at a local elementary school. They're having a science expo day from 1 o'clock till 4, and so they're going to be beekeepers and chemists and radio astronomers, and hopefully, if it's clear, we'll be outside showing people Venus in the daytime sky.
We're doing what you enjoy. I know, Richard, you work with kids a lot. So
frozen again. Anyway.
Okay. Hopefully, well, I don't know, Paul. You saved us. Paul saved the Hangout. Because when I was sitting here, we're supposed to start at 11 Supposed to start 11. Nobody's here. Nobody's here. Start
Let me
11:30, 11:40. Nobody's here. Nobody's here. Paul showed up, Identity 4 in the chat room, and volunteered.
Well, you're lucky I even came home at all. I was at work drinking.
So if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have had a hangout tonight. So thank you so much for showing up.
Well, thank you for having it. It's fun. I should do these more often.
Hey, come in anytime.
Maybe not this late, though. I'm going to really regret this tomorrow morning. I'm going to be tired and hungover.
And,
Maybe I'll sleep in. Most of the company's off on a ski trip tomorrow. I doubt they'll even notice if I come in late.
well, you see, if Justin Jackson shows up, then you can just step back and be quiet, because he'll go on for about an hour or two on any
Someone's
subject.
got to be on here to rant. If Justin's not going to come here, I got to come on here and rant. This just won't be right without a rant.
Okay, hopefully see you, both you guys, next week. Paul, have a rest. Richard, enjoy your day tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay, see you guys.